Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the biggest FNAF fan games to ever dominate YouTube. From games that every creator seemed to be playing, to fan projects that exploded across the platform overnight, these titles became impossible to ignore. Some of these helped define entire eras of FNAF content, so let's dive into them. When you think of the best FNAF games, what games do you think of? What are your top 5 in terms of quality alone? I'm willing to bet that a lot of people share some of the same entries, and I'm willing to bet that the game we'll be talking about today is at the top of some of your lists, because it's definitely at the top of mine. The Glitched Attraction is a FNAF fan game developed by two 18-year-old developers alone. The reason I mention their age is because of how impressive this game really is, and how impressive it is that only two brand new adults managed to design it themselves. When I first learned how old these guys were, I was shocked. The Glitched Attraction is one of the best FNAF games I've ever played. I know a few of you watch my content to get suggestions for FNAF games to play, and for those of you that do not pass this one up. It is one of the most high-quality experiences of all time. Let's not waste any more time and hop into the Glitched Attraction, FNAF's most high-quality FNAF game ever made. Our game begins with us getting a text from a friend asking us to come check out the new Fazbear escape room attraction, and they tell us to bring all of our things along with us. A request that is definitely weird, but since when has weird ever meant bad in a FNAF game before, am I right? So we do just that, pack up all of our things and set out. You heard it here first. The Glitched Attraction is seriously a Five Nights at Freddy's escape room, a concept that sounded so cool I couldn't not check this game out, and I'm glad I did. We arrive at the attraction and two helper bots explain what's going to happen, and then we have to give over everything we have. Why the fuck did we bring everything we own if we're just going to give it to some random robots? This is pretty fishy smelling, and I should know because I haven't showered in 8 weeks. With the general rules explained, we continue onto the first section of the escape room as chipper as we can be. We're kicking our feet and heel clicking and shit, we're so giddy. Not knowing what we're getting ourselves into, we can dive into the first room of the Glitched Attraction. The first room has us in a room similar in style to the bedroom from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. This room, being the first, isn't very difficult, but let me go over the 4 threats you can find in this room. While you're trying to think, focus, and not be a fuck-up, Nightmare Balloon Boy will be sitting on a chair, because his fat ass wouldn't ever dream of helping anyone, but would instead prefer to sit there and be pointless. But sometimes, he gets a little antsy. You can tell when he's like this because he will visibly seize in his chair until you shine your flashlight at him. It's weird that doing this causes his seizure to stop though, because when I quickly shined a flashlight in my epileptic friend's eyes, he went comatose on the ground and started foaming at the mouth. But to each their own, I guess. If you don't aid in Balloon Boy's assisted suicide, he will jump off the chair and kill you. Something interesting I noted is that Balloon Boy actually makes no noise when he shakes, or even when he jumps off of his chair, leading to a majority of his jump scares feeling really awkward. I get why he doesn't make any noise, because it'd be way too easy to not lose track of him, but just something I thought I'd bring up. You'll realize there's a giant window in this room as well, which lets you see outside. Occasionally, you'll be able to see Nightmare Fredbear stalking you from between the trees. Little does he know that his eyes are actually signal beams as bright as those stupid fucking white LEDs that are now being put onto vehicles, so that when I'm driving at night, everybody's headlights look like they have their fucking brights on. So when I flash my brights at them indicating to turn theirs down, then they actually turn their brights on, which simulate what I can only imagine to be the lights of God. And then I feel like an asshole because I just flashed a guy who didn't have their brights on. Sorry to go off on a tangent like that. I just really had to get my frustration about LEDs on cars out of the way, and I really didn't have a good outlet to do so. Anyways, you'll see Fredbear slowly inch closer to your window throughout the challenge, and when he gets super close, you'll have to close the curtains until you hear him laugh, signaling to you that he's gone away, and then you can reopen the curtains. Why on earth do you not just choose to keep the curtains closed for the whole time then? I have no idea. It's not like we need the moonlight to see. The bots at the beginning gave us a fucking flashlight, but whatever, I guess. Speaking of your flashlight, little tiny stupid insignificant frettles will periodically appear around your room. They make the same noise as they do in FNAF 4, so hearing them shouldn't be a problem, especially considering how god-awful annoying they sound. Shine your flashlight at them and bada bing bada boom, they go away. But if you let 3 stay in your room and assault your eardrums for too long, 2 of them will grab either one of your butt cheeks as the third dives headfirst into your rectum, which some of you sick fucks may find pleasing, but I for one do not. The final threat you have to worry about is Night Marionette. If you somehow, by some miracle, haven't noticed in the footage I've been showing on screen so far, there is a giant hole busted into the wall of the room, which is very poorly boarded up. Why is it boarded up? I hear you asking. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, it's only because, Satan is in there with enough tentacles to make hentai for the next 9,000 years. But, putting that thought aside, Night Marionette will occasionally give a sound cue to let you know she's there. If you look at the hole, you'll be able to see those sex toys, tentacles, creeping out. At this point, you'll need to make a mad dash to the Golden Freddy suit, which is conveniently placed in the room with you, and hide inside of it. Once you do so for long enough, Night Marionette will leave. Now, hold on. I'm not done talking about this stupid fucking Golden Freddy costume yet. I have some complaining to do, if you could imagine. This Golden Freddy suit takes about, 2 fucking decades to put on. I'm not kidding. You will feel like this game is broken or has paused as you are putting this fucking thing on. But if that wasn't enough, taking it off is somehow even worse. Rather than just exiting the costume, instead, the game thought it would be a great idea to have you teleport out of the costume, where you think you'd be able to continue moving around and interacting with things. But no, that'd be too convenient. Instead, once you teleport out of the costume, you have to just stand there for about 4 seconds doing absolutely nothing. No moving, no using your flashlight, just standing there like a dunce as time still passes around you. While in the Golden Freddy costume, did you happen to notice that Balloon Boy was tweaking out? Okay, cool. Night Marionette's gone, let's quickly exit the costume and flash Balloon Boy. Oh wait! Instead of flashing Balloon Boy, i.e. saving your own life, let's instead stand there like we have an iron deficiency for 5 fucking minutes as Balloon Boy twerks his fat jiggly ass all over his goddamn chair. I really needed to get that out of my system. Surely I won't have to complain for the rest of the video now, right? Anyways, how do we actually beat this room's challenge? Good question. You'll notice on the wall there's a picture of Freddy broken up into pieces, with each piece facing a different direction. You can turn each piece in order to make the picture look normal again, but you'll notice that one of the pieces is missing. On the dresser, you'll see the FNAF 4 box that Scott Cawthon wiped his ass with. Of course, it has 2 locks. You can find one of the keys to the locks in a drawer on the dresser, and the other key in the drawer of your nightstand. Using both of these keys to unlock the locks on the box, bars, opens it, revealing the last piece of the Freddy puzzle. You can take that piece and put it back in place to finish the puzzle, revealing a 6-digit code. Quick tip, this number is randomized every time you play it, so no fast speedrunning for you, sucker. Going back to the nightstand, you can open a door to reveal a safe. You punch that 6-digit code into the safe, open it, and find a hammer. You can then use this hammer to take the nails off the wooden boards covering the closet door, then open the closet door and escape the bedroom. Do keep in mind that as you are trying to do this, you are getting fucked from all angles by about 179 different pieces of fuck. But overall, I think this is by far the easiest room to complete, which is probably how it should be given the fact that we have a lot more rooms to go through. Speaking of, let's get to the next one. The next room is much larger than the previous. This time there are only 3 threats: Toy Chica, Mangle, and the Cupcake. This room is basically a big circle. Chica will walk around the circle patrolling for you. If you get in her line of sight, she will start to chase you. If she catches you, she will throw the meanest right hook I've ever seen since Muzi. You can hide in any of the several lockers lining the walls, but be aware that not all lockers can open. And if you want to know something super awesome, which lockers open are randomized each time you play. Meaning if you lose a run, some of the lockers you hid in before probably will be locked this time. Isn't that awesome? The Cupcake will also patrol around, but he is much less important. He himself can't end your run, but if you're not watching him and accidentally step on him, he will squeak, causing Chica to be alerted to your exact location. For me personally, I hate this type of mechanics in games. I want to note, I don't think they're bad mechanics, I just don't like them. When there's a puzzle, I would like to be able to focus on the puzzle without having to worry about being chased at the same time. It also doesn't help that I don't handle being chased very well in any game, period. But it definitely doesn't help when I'm trying to focus on solving a puzzle on top of that. Just a me thing. But if that wasn't enough for my poor heart to handle, we have Mangle tacked on top of that. Mangle is hiding in the ceiling throughout the challenge. Occasionally, you will hear vent noises. When you do, that's when you know Mangle is about to drop down on yo ass. She has two possible drop locations. If you hear the vent noises on a side of the room that you're not on, you can safely ignore her as long as you don't then move to the side she's on. But if you hear her on a side of the room that you are on, you have two options. You can either A, move to the other side of the room, which might be a problem if Chica is over there, or B, hide in a locker. If you don't hide and Mangle happens to see you when she drops down, she will start to chase you. And unlike Chica, when Mangle chases you, there's no way to make her stop. At that point, even hiding in a locker won't be enough to be able to protect your cheeks. So, about the puzzle I was bitching about earlier. You'll notice a large door locked via a pin. The pin is 6 digits long and consists of 6 different symbols. Around the dark room, you'll have to find sticky notes on the walls that correlate each symbol to a number, which will give you the code order needed to unlock the door. If you couldn't have guessed, yes, this is also randomized each time you play. Simply find all the notes, type in the code, and you're done. Come on, you didn't really fall for that, did you? That was way too easy. This is a FNAF game, remember? And according to the FNAF game dev rules, difficulty equals quality. So let's make this as hard as possible. After opening up the door and flipping 4 switches to turn the power to the room on, a whole new world of fuck opens up to us, including a brand new threat, Withered Freddy. Withered Freddy sits inside of a music box, which I find weird because the marionette is literally in this room. I don't know why they didn't just use her for this mechanic, but whatever. Freddy's music box will slowly wind down, and if you don't keep it wound up, he will right hook, shatter the glass, hop out, and chase you. Just like Mangle, there's no hiding. If you hide inside of a locker, Freddy will stand outside of it and wait for you to come out. And when you do, you guessed it, he eats your ass. But because the devs of this game hate their players, if you wind Freddy's music box up too much, he will also shatter the glass and then shatter your sphincter. Cool. As if this wasn't hard enough for poor old Dexter to handle. What do we have to do now? Well, inside of the room you opened, there's some shit on the wall and we need to find some gears to make the contraption work. Again, you will just walk around the room and find all the needed gears and put them back in their place. Once you do, a door on the opposite side of the room will open, and you'll have to make a sprint of fate over to it. And then finally, the room is complete. This room isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I actually really like the concept of adding another threat halfway through. I just personally hate it for reasons stated earlier, but that's just a skill issue on my part. Moving on. Do you like complex things? Well boy, do I have a treat for you. The third room challenge is a nightmare. Let's waste no time and do a Tolarian Community College level threat assessment. This room has 4 threats: Springtrap, Dreadbear, Phantom Foxy, and Phantom Balloon Boy. Phantom Balloon Boy is simple, so let's cover him first. He works just as he does in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. He can randomly appear on any of the cameras. If you look at him on the camera for too long, he will jump scare you and cause a video error. Except the video error in this game just means that the camera he jump scared you on can never be used again for the rest of the run, which I promise you is a very bad thing, and the reason will be revealed later. Phantom Foxy can appear in any of the 2 doors connecting to your office. If you look at him for too long, he will charge at you and jump scare you, causing a level of hallucinations to appear. If too many levels of hallucinations appear at once, it's game over. Now, let's talk about the real threats of this night: Springtrap and Dreadbear. Dreadbear can be seen on the cameras and will attack either one of your doors. Do note that you can close these doors and they each have their own power supply. But Dreadbear is unaffected by the doors and will break them down if they're in his way. You'll have to watch the cameras to see which door he will be attacking, and when you see him charging towards one, you will have to hide under the desk on the opposite side of the desk to where he is coming from in order to stay out of his line of sight when he enters your office. Eventually, he will leave and you'll be safe to come back out. Springtrap is a goofy little thing, to say the least. Springtrap will climb through any of 3 vents, which you can see on the cameras. 2 vents bring him to your respective office doors, and the 3rd leads to the vent that is directly above you. If you see Springtrap climbing through a door vent, you will have to simply close the door to the side he's going towards. If you see him climbing through a vent that brings him to the top of your office, you'll need to quickly turn off the power to the office and hide under your desk. He'll drop down, and once he can't see you because the lights are off, he will leave. You got all that down? Good. Because we have a whole load more of fuck to talk about next. That being, How do we escape this room? Well, the goal is to open a tiny vent near the ground beneath the TV screen. To start, you'll want to check near the desk to look for a code. It's random every time, and where it appears next to the desk is also random every time, so have fun. Once you get the code, you head over to the TV screen and press developer mode, and then type in the code you found in your office. This lets you activate developer mode, which opens up a door on the wall revealing a token. Keep in mind, all of the threats are active at this time. Using the token, you pop that puppy into the big arcade machine in your office, which promptly starts up a game. That's right, while defending yourself from an onslaught of fuck, you will also have to play an entirely other game at the same time. The game in question, Save the Children, is really just a bunch of fetch quests. To start, you'll talk to Balloon Boy, who is fishing and says he needs some balloons. By the way, if you couldn't have guessed, all of the items that you'll be collecting in this minigame will be in a random location every time you play. Because God hates you. When you bring the balloons back to Balloon Boy, he will give you one of the fish he caught. Then you need to find Old Man Consequences and give him the fish, since the pond he's fishing in doesn't have any. Once you give him the fish, he gives you a lily pad for some fucking reason. Don't question it. We don't have time to question it because I neglected to mention there's a fire spreading through the building as you're escaping, and if you take too long, it will reach your office and kill you. No, I'm not joking. Oh, and again, keep in mind all of the threats I mentioned are still pulverizing your butthole. Once you have the lily pad, you'll take it back to Balloon Boy's pond and use it as a bridge to talk to this fucking robot thing. The robot says its watch is broken, so fuck you, go look for a clock. Once you find the clock and bring it back to the robot, he gives you a penguin, I think is what that thing is. Then you take the penguin over to Lolbit, who gives you a key to unlock a gate, which then leads you to an area where you need to unlock another gate. Yes, this minigame is still happening right now. You spelunk into a cave and talk to some dude who thinks the cave is too dark. You then have to leave the cave and go look for a torch, head all the way back and give the torch to him. He will then give you a key to unlock the other gate, and when you do, you'll exit the area, leading to a William Afton cutscene where he goes sicko mode inside of his Springlock suit. And finally, you have to sit there and wait as the game reboots. Again, we're on a time crunch, so your butthole will probably be puckered at this point. Again, threats are still up the wazoo right now, so don't get comfortable. Once the system reboots, you'll get another 5-digit code which you can use to unlock a box on the office desk, which reveals a key. You then use the key on a keyhole in the fucking wall for some reason, and at this point, no matter how much time you have left, the game will start to count down from 6. Once the fire reaches your office, the small vent I mentioned at the beginning of this room will finally open, and you'll be free to crawl through it, but not before Springtrap lunges out and grabs your ankle with lust in his eyes and shit. You quickly close the vent and decapitate that bitch, and finally, you complete the room. Holy shit, this room gave me a panic attack and made me shart my pants. Shall we begrudgingly move on to the next room? I think so. Let's keep this gravy train rolling. Do you enjoy having headaches? If you do, this next room is for you. Let's go over it together. I'll hold your hand. This room is made up of 2 hallways, 2 windows, and a bunch of screens, a small elevator, and a life-size 7-foot-tall circus baby animatronic. The goal of this room is to put baby back together, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's first go over the threats this room has to offer. The first threat is Ballora. At times you will hear her music box begin to play. Depending on which side of the room you hear the music coming from, you'll need to go over to that side's hallway and press an electric shock button that will electrify the doorway, shocking Ballora and making her go away. If she gets in, I'm guessing you can figure out what happens next. Ballora is the easiest threat. What else is there? Well, the 2 other threats are Funtime Foxy and Funtime Freddy. Occasionally, you will hear a gurgling sound cue, letting you know something is wrong with either Foxy or Freddy. You will have to run over to the windows and turn on the light to their room to see where they are. Starting with Foxy, if you see him doing the thug shaker on stage, you just press his shock button, and he will go back to how he's supposed to be. Be careful though, if you shock him too many times for no reason, he'll eat your ass like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Freddy, on the other hand, is slightly different. His light button doesn't work. Similar to Sister Location, while looking at him, occasionally sparks will fly out of the wires in his room, briefly illuminating. In this small window of time, you'll be able to see where Freddy is located. He will slowly make his way towards the window, and if he gets too close, you guessed it, ass in his mouth, eating it like a cupcake. If you see Freddy getting too close for comfort, you press the tape symbol button, which will make Bon Bon tell Freddy to get the fuck back on stage. And he promptly will. Again, like Foxy, if you push the tape button too many times for no reason, It's time for the bite of 87 on your asshole. Now, back to putting baby back together to complete the night. You'll notice that baby is missing both arms and both legs. The first thing you'll need to do is find the baby chip hidden on the desk somewhere and plug it into the monitor. For some reason, we don't plug it into a computer, but I guess that's not really important now, is it? Once the monitor comes on, we need to call for baby's different pieces, starting with her arm. The general goal is to get each piece of her delivered and then fuse each of them to her body. Before I get to the fusing part of this process, let me bitch about the delivery process. So obviously, delivering the parts will take time, which isn't what we want because, as usual, we're on a timer here. And because of it, the devs thought it would be oh so funny to have some of the pieces come in broken, and once you put them on and try to fuse them, only then it will tell you it is broken and won't work, and you'll have to take the piece back off, return it, which also takes time, and then order and wait for another piece to be delivered. Why was this necessary, guys? What neuron fired off in your brain that made you think, how can I be Satan today? Anyways, let's talk about fusing, because this is really where the headache of this challenge comes into play. Starting with fusing the head, which for some reason wasn't already fused on, even though the challenge started with her head already being on her body. In order to fuse baby's body parts back to her torso, you have to complete a small minigame. For her head, it's basically just Simon Says, but with numbers instead of colors. But don't worry, the devs weren't just being nice and thinking about colorblind people. We'll get to that in just a minute. This is by far the easiest and least time-consuming part to fuse, but if you mess up a pattern once, you'll have to completely restart the head fusing process. Let's move on to her arms. The minigame for both arms are the same. The goal of this minigame is to divert power from the left side of the screen to the right. You do this by turning a bunch of 90-degree lines and 180-degree lines in order to make a consistent path from left to right. This sounds easy, but holy fucking shit, knowing you're on a time crunch and dealing with 30 pounds of dick in your ass at the same time definitely doesn't make this a smooth process. Do that for both arms and you're on to legs, the part that makes people like me want to die. In order to fuse the legs, you have to play a color matching game. You will see two grids of colors, one grid where you can change the colors and on the other you cannot. You have to copy it. Let's get the big elephant out of the room. If you're colorblind or deficient like I am, this challenge is borderline impossible. I'm lucky enough to not be completely colorblind, or I would never have beaten this in my entire life. But not only that, but the grid each time has a missing square, as I'm sure you've noticed, but I'm also sure you've noticed that missing square on your side and the missing square on the side you're supposed to copy are in different locations. That's because they rotated the fucking grid. Talk about a headache, am I right? Maybe I'm just brain dead when it comes to this, but trying to comprehend where each color should go when it's rotated was just not a fun experience at all. I'm not even going to lie to you. But once you finally finish fusing all of baby's pieces back together, a voice will come over the speakers telling you that all of the animatronics have been deactivated, and that you should exit through the hall on your right. When you do, you'll be led to the sister location elevator. Getting inside, it will slowly descend and then stop. You'll hear something laughing at you for a while, and then the elevator will suddenly drop and you die. The end. Game over. Okay, not really. That's just the transition to the next room. Are you ready? Because I sure as fuck aren't. Why did we agree to come to this place? It makes no sense. How does this place even exist? I could have died a solid 276 times at this point, and we're not even done yet. Someone needs to get this place investigated by the FBI because this is some bullshit. What a waste of a Saturday, am I right? Anyways, let's move on. After laying on the floor for approximately 8 days, we finally wake up from the fallen elevator. We walk past a large window and see the characters we just went up against. After the events of the last room, these little tiny robot things apparently grabbed all of the characters to bring them to the scooping room. And this room is presumably that. While we look across the floor of once familiar corpses, the bane of my existence and the shit in my diaper emerges from the tangled mess of wires. Ennard. This guy is the single reason why it took me so long to make this video, why it took me a month to beat this game. For most, it certainly wouldn't have taken this long, but for me, oh my lord, this next room will give me flashbacks like Charlie and the Trees for the next 5 decades, and possibly until I reach my grave. Remember the second room? How I mentioned I don't handle being chased very well? This room made me question if I would be able to continue making videos on this channel. or if I would have to jump ships to another genre to make review videos about. I'm not kidding, not even a little bit. I originally intended to beat this game on stream on Dexter Black, and you can still see my first stream about this game where I gave up on Room 2. Well, for the people who tuned into that stream, no, I didn't give up. But you should also be grateful that I didn't stream this entire process because I spent tens of hours trying to beat this next room alone. Let me explain why. Room 5 is the epitome of everything I hate in a horror game. Literally all the way down to the last detail. I'll give you a warning right now. This is 100% a me problem and is totally my subjective opinion. So, the only threat in this room is Ennard. Thankfully, there aren't any more, but dear lord, Ennard is all it needs. In terms of where we are story-wise, the elevator crashing was definitely not intended to happen, as upon beginning this room, we don't get a monitor telling us what our goals are. This is cool as a passing thought, but it's not really cool when you stop to think that there is absolutely nothing to explain what it is I need to do to complete the challenge. Upon beginning, we're given a wind to power flashlight and some writing on the wall telling us to light up a solar panel using the flashlight. Now, I'm already going to pause real quick. We're being shown a new mechanic, the wind up flashlight and solar panel. Cool. Now tell me, do you suspect we need to light up solar panels ever again in this entire challenge? Or the entire game? I'm assuming you said yes, but you'd be completely wrong. No, there's not a single other solar panel in this entire game. So please, tell me, why the fuck were we shown this? Showing us the flashlight makes sense, but there were countless other ways to do it in a much better way than showing us another mechanic that is never used again. This is exactly like the gun in Muzi. But continuing, once we light the solar panel, a large door opens and the challenge truly begins. The overall goal of this challenge is probably the easiest we've seen so far. It's broken up into 5 distinct tasks. Step 1, find a crowbar. Step 2, use the crowbar to force open a drawer near Kyle's desk to get a keycard. Step 3, use Kyle's keycard to open a door, allowing you to turn a generator on that powers computer monitors throughout the room. Step 4, find all 3 computers and input 3 colored fuses into each. The fuses are conveniently placed in boxes right next to the computers, so I appreciate that. And step 5, go back to the generator and turn on the central power, which opens the door, allowing you to climb a ladder and beat the challenge. Sounds simple, right? Well, yes. It is simple, but now I need to talk about the problem. Ennard. Ennard will be patrolling the giant maze of a room the entire time you are performing these tasks. If he sees you, he will begin to chase you. If you get caught, you will lose all progress you've made throughout the challenge. Let me tell you another fact. Unlike every room in this game so far, this room ain't small. No, this room is very fucking large. I hate everything about life. Let me complain about some more stuff. If you are near Ennard, he will hear you and be alerted to you if you do the following. Wind up the flashlight. Makes sense. It's really loud. I can understand that one. If you run. Okay, yeah. I've seen that in other games before. Running is louder than walking is, and walking. That's right. If you move, period, while he is anywhere remotely close to you, he will hear you and start to chase you. What the fuck? And once he starts chasing you, there's only 2 ways to get him to stop. The devs must have been smoking crack and playing Dead by Daylight while they were designing this section, because one of the methods used to escape an Ennard chase is by knocking over wood pallets placed around the room. Quickly break the pallets and continue to chase you if you don't hop bottom out of there at light speed. What's the second way of escaping a chase? I hear you asking? Well, it's by stunning Ennard. How do you stun Ennard? I hear you asking again. That's a great question. I have no fucking idea. I'm not joking. I literally have no fucking clue on earth how, on God's green fuck, you're supposed to stun Ennard. How do I know you can stun him? Well, every time you die, which, judging by the fact it took me borderline a month to beat this challenge, I did quite frequently. You will get a tip on the loading screen. One of these tips tells you that stunning Ennard will give you more time to run away than knocking over a pallet will. So I know you can, but the game doesn't elaborate on how to do that as far as I'm aware. So to this day, I still have no idea how to stun Ennard. I don't know what the hell the game is talking about. I'm stumped. But I'm not even close to done talking about this section of the game. No. I spent a fucking month on this. I can dedicate a few pages of my script to it. You can sit down and listen. I don't care if this video ends up being an hour long. You see, there is a very large, steaming hot, glaring issue with this challenge in specific. Since it's technically not a part of the canonical attraction, there's no tip screen at the beginning. But with no tip screen, there's no telling anyone fuck about fuck. So, as I said, there are 3 computers around the level. Each computer has a box of fuses with differently colored patterns on them right next to them. Each computer requires 3 different fuses. How do you figure out which fuses go where? Well, at first I looked at the colors of the wires going into the computer. I thought, maybe this will give me a hint as to what I'm supposed to do. So I tried to grab the fuses out of the box, but I couldn't. So then I thought, oh, maybe these aren't the fuses, and the actual fuses are randomly placed around the map. So I went to look. I looked, and I looked, and I looked, but I never found any fuses. Eventually, I died for probably the 48,000th time to see a tip appear on my screen. You won't be able to pick up fuses until you turn on the monitors. You didn't think to tell me that? You didn't think that was important information to give out earlier? This is why we need the fucking tip screen, asshole. But fuck me, whatever, sure. So then I started trying to figure out how to turn the monitors on. I tried seeing if I could press the buttons on the monitors, but that didn't work, so then I decided to try and find something else to do. Eventually, I found a note next to a door mentioning that Kyle leaves a keycard in his desk to open said door. Okay, cool. Something to do has just fallen into my lap. Let's go find Kyle's desk. Luckily for me, desks are in the same location every time you play, so we don't have to worry about those being randomized. After looking for a very long time, because again, I don't handle being chased well at all, it's like I fucking lock up and start freezing. I don't know what's wrong with me, I just can't handle it. So, most of the gameplay boiled down to me moving incredibly slowly and taking way more time than I ever needed to complete this challenge. But that's how I personally had to do this if I wanted to play it myself, which is also why the footage you're watching right now isn't mine. Thank you, Kono and Indie Fuel. I eventually find Kyle's desk to then find another note from Kyle mentioning that you need a crowbar to be able to open his drawer with the keycard in it. Fuck me. So, after searching for another 100 years, I find the crowbar on a desk and use it to open the drawer to get the keycard. 400 hours and 2,000 deaths later, I use the keycard to open the door and find the generator inside. Flip the switch and boom, the computers are now on. Now, 5,000 deaths later, I finally get to the point where I can pick up the fuses and match the correct fuses to the one shown on the screen. After 25,000 deaths, I managed to correctly match the fuses of all 3 computers. Keep in mind, every time I die, I have to completely restart this entire process, all the way back to shining the flashlight at the solar panel. I'm on the verge of death. So finally, I make it back to the generator to turn it on and finish this godforsaken challenge. And I do, expecting the door next to it to open. It doesn't. Come in real close for me. Come in real close. This fucking door needs a separate key that spawns randomly in the level. I'm going to clench my teeth together so hard that they shatter into a fine powder. This right here is what took me the longest. So finally, after 100,000 deaths, I finally get the key to the generator to unlock the door. Come in real close again for me, real close, one more time. Take a guess what's in this room. Is it the exit to let me move on to the next challenge? No, it's just fucking lore. I didn't know this while I was playing. I don't watch videos about the games I play, so I had no idea what was behind this fucking door. I know that's 100% my fault, but dear God, when I tell you how fucking pissed I was when I finally figured out this after hours upon hours of attempts, I was fucking livid. I wish I was recording my attempts so I could show you my reaction. You wanna know what happened after a reasonable crash out in this room? Ennard fucking walked in and killed me, making me start from the beginning again. Once again, I wasn't recording. However, this exact same thing happened to Markiplier, so I'll show you footage of this happening to him instead.
Good. I was about to say, if that guy could have come in here, I would have been so mad. How could you ever get me in here?
The amount of vulgarities that emerged from my lungs at a speed of Mach 50 in that moment was astronomical, enough to shake trees and shatter the sound barrier. I was fucking livid. But again, I know full well that this entire section, this entire 4 pages of my script is an experience that only I have had. Nobody else on Earth struggled with this challenge as much as I did.
Nobody in history has ever spent a calendar month pouring attempts into this section of a game that should only take 20 minutes to complete. I know it's a skill issue, and a very hard skill issue at that, but I could not, under any circumstance, neglect to mention how bullshit of an experience I had. I hope you enjoyed this segment. I eventually found the door to the generator, opened it, and climbed up the ladder into the next challenge of this godforsaken fuck-ass game. From one anxiety attack to another, let's talk about room 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that's how many threats we have to talk about in this level. Awesome segue, Dexter. Thanks, Dexter. The first threat we'll talk about is Molten Freddy. Molten Freddy can appear in one of 2 vents occasionally. When you hear or see him in one, you'll have to break your mouse and spam click a lever in the vent to blind him with a light more powerful than the sun. Every time you flash him, he gets slightly pushed back, which leads to you spending an infuriating amount of time spamming the fucking lever to make him go away. The next threat is Scrap Baby. As I'm sure you've noticed, we're locked inside a fenced area. On the outside of the fence is a forest, and occasionally you'll be able to see Baby limping her way out from between the trees towards your fence. When she gets to the fence, she'll hop that shit like an Olympic athlete and fuck your shit up. To stop her, you must go to this random screen in the wall and activate the repel system, which plays the most ear-piercing sound I've ever heard in my entire life. So I totally understand why that makes Baby go away. The final threat is Scrap Trap, who in my opinion is the stupidest looking FNAF character ever designed. You can see Scrap Trap sitting on a chair down a long hallway. You must watch him closely as he will slowly start to move until his head is eventually in an upright position. When it is, you must use the same screen you used for Baby, but instead close the door and use the call system to lure him to you. After waiting what will feel like an eternity, you will be able to hear him stand up from the chair and sprint like Usain Bolt towards the door, and pound on it like he's on speed. Then he will go back to the chair and you can open the door and turn off the call system. By the way, the call system is also the worst sound I've ever heard in my whole life. Thank you for asking. That may not sound all bad, but having to deal with all 3 of these fuckers and do the other bullshit we have to do, I promise it will become difficult to manage. So what is it we have to do? Well, the goal is to remove the chains from a fence gate so that we can open it. Simple enough. To start, you'll notice another screen different from the one used to defend yourself. On it, you'll find the opening minigame from Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator. You will need to complete 4 levels of this game, which in and of itself isn't a hard challenge, but when the music is pretty loud, listening for the other characters can be a problem, especially when Scrap Trap doesn't make any noise until it's already too late. After beating this game, you will unlock a prize that we can't access at this moment, so we'll get back to it in a second. Afterwards, you'll need to look around your surroundings to find 2 pieces of paper with a number ranging from 1 to 3 on them, accompanied by a silhouette of a FNAF character. You can use these pieces of paper to input a code into this little toy thing. I don't know what this thing is, if I'm being honest. You only need 2 pieces of the code because you can just brute force the last one. After getting the code correct, a key will emerge. Take that key and run down the hall and unlock a door to the right of Scrap Trap. This is personally where I think this level gets specifically hard, since we'll be spending most of our time in here now, meaning we won't be able to hear Scrap Trap and Molten Freddy. So if you forget to check on them, it's basically GG's. Inside this new room, we can finally obtain the prize we got from beating the Pizzeria Simulator minigame, a Faz coin. You'll notice a projector that's projecting a cut-up piece of paper on the wall. If you pull a lever on the same wall, this tiny little Freddy I can't remember the name of will try to read the projection. But he obviously won't be able to do so because it's only a small piece of a paper, you fucking idiot. Using the Faz coin, you can go back into Scrap Trap's room and insert it into Rockstar Freddy's stomach, and then press 3 buttons on his body in an order listed on a piece of paper. This makes sense, by the way. This will cause his mouth to open, revealing the other pieces of paper you need. Slap those bitches on the projector and put them together like a puzzle, which, side note, is a pain in the ass for no reason. The controls are super janky. Slap the lever with your big Coke can penis, and have bitch Freddy read it. When he does, a door next to Rockstar Freddy will open with some bolt cutters inside. You can use these bolt cutters to cut the chains off of the fence and escape this level. This level might not seem as difficult as some of the other ones have, and while none of these levels are particularly difficult in terms of what you literally have to do, all of the levels, and this one specifically, build up so much stress. and really test your nerve control. After jumping down some weird looking cellar door, we enter a new room with a computer in it. It shows an error that it detected human movement. Obviously, we just entered the room, of course. While reading through the files on the computer that detail a plan to revive someone through our corpse, another human detection error shows up on screen. Knowing that we haven't moved, we turn around and get our shit smacked up by Vanny and get knocked out. Fun fact, you can actually spot Vanny spying on you in almost every other level in the game if you're looking closely enough. Just something cool I thought I'd bring up. We wake up to Vanny dragging us into an unknown room. And rather than me explaining what happens next, I'd rather just show you. Afterwards, we walk through what appears to be memories of the Bite of 87 events, and the game comes to a close.
Five Nights at Freddy's games don't scare me. Even the jump scares never typically get me to scream, shout, quiver in my boots, and defecate in my britches. However, the game I'll be covering today did. Not only that, but this game, this masterpiece, is probably one of, if not the coolest Five Nights at Freddy's fan game I've ever played. Today, I'll be covering their Return to Bloody Nights. Released in 2023 on Game Jolt by Kazovsky, it serves as a prequel to the official Five Nights at Freddy's series, taking place before the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So you already know this game is about to be packed to the brim with lore, and after hearing that, I really begin to quiver in fear, because covering lore makes me want to drop cheeks on my desk and quake my entire house. I personally care much more about gameplay. Can't enjoy the story if the game itself is worse than shitting in a public school bathroom. So let's jump right into the Return to Bloody Nights. I'm sure I won't lose my mind, even a little bit. Starting up the game, we're greeted to an opening cutscene, where we can see Spring Bonnie playing a tune and getting his jiggy on. We appear to be inside a Freddy costume, and given when this game is taking place, I can only assume that this is either a Golden Freddy suit or a Fredbear suit. Looking around in the suit, I noticed literally Satan chilling in the darkness. Sup, Satan?
Hi.
And shortly thereafter, we're thrown into the menu. The Return to Bloody Nights has the typical Five Nights formula, with a difficult sixth night at the end. Split up into days of the week, it gives it a bit more character, which also makes sense. When a girl asks you what day it is, you don't say the fourth day, you say Thursday like a normal person. But all you little freak geeks probably respond by instantly jeebing in your pants because a woman has never spoken to you before because you're chronically online. Don't lie. We all are. Nothing to be embarrassed about. Jumping into night one, we first have to wait for a phone call to play out between Henry and William. Since this takes place before the official games, it can only be assumed that at this point in time, Henry already had his restaurant, and William was currently working on his own. Before every night, we get a phone call just like this. Henry checks up on William's progress with the animatronics. William talks and makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Seriously, the voice actors in this game did an amazing job of playing the parts. Oh, and I can't forget my favorite part, getting to hear Henry tell William that safety comes first about 800 times per phone call.
I want to make sure that our establishments are safe for everyone who comes through our doors. I still want you to take your time with the project. Rushing things could lead to mistakes.
But I do need to move quickly if we're going to open in time.
I know, but please keep safety in mind, above all else.
Honestly, if I was William and I had to hear Henry tell me the same thing a million times, I probably would have killed those kids too. Moving into the office, we get to listen to yet another phone call. Holy shit, I'm gonna tear my pubes out. I know this game is more focused on lore, but holy shit, I downloaded the game to play it. If I wanted a story, I'd get a visual novel. In all honesty though, the in-office phone calls are actually also great.
Again, the voice actor did an amazing job playing the part. He tells us about the restaurant, whatever the fuck. Tell me about the robots, bro. That's what I'm interested in. Night 1 introduces Spring Bonnie. I'm sure you could have guessed. This game takes place in Fredbear's family diner. We play as a guy named Scott, which I might add is probably the whitest name of all time. Spring Bonnie does exactly what you think he does. Starts on the show stage, shimmies around the cameras like he just sprayed some cologne in the air, and brings it around town to your right side office door. It's at this point where I should establish how the doors work in this game. You'll notice that there are no lights. However, you do have a flashlight, so you can flash that puppy into the doorways to see what's there. However, you'll notice that your flashlight doesn't illuminate the entire doorway, so you'll have to move your flashlight around to actually see the full picture. It's also because of this that we get my favorite part of this entire game. Oh my fucking god! Holy shit! Oh my god, that was fucking cool as shit! Oh my god, bro. Holy shit, that was awesome. The moment I saw this, I thought to myself, yep, for sure. This game's getting a white video. The fear in my voice in that clip was genuine. I know a lot of creators on this site like to fake and hype up their reactions because it makes good content, but if you watch my second channel, Dexter Black, you'd know that all of my reactions are real. So not often will you catch me getting scared like that, but hot damn was this cool. As I'm sure you could guess, when you see Spring Bonnie in the doorway geeked out of his mind, you need to close the door and wait for a sound cue letting you know he's left. With only one animatronic, I'm sure you could guess that this night is incredibly easy, so let's move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces Fredbear. He acts the same way as Spring Bonnie, except he attacks the left door rather than the right. Since that's pretty boring, let's talk about the cameras and why I think this game does animatronic movement correctly compared to other games. Something I've noticed in a lot of FNAF games is that characters have a path. No shit, that's how it's always been. But you'll notice in most games that this path is very basic. For example, I move from camera 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and then arrive at your door. Very basic. This game and a few others do something really cool. Rather than just appearing in one camera and teleporting to another, the characters in the Return to Bloody Nights will instead have multiple phases on each camera, kind of like Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, wherein, if you're watching the cameras, you will see Spring Bonnie, for example, go from the show stage to standing off of the show stage, and then he'll transfer to another camera, and in most cases, each character has at least 2 phases on each camera that they enter, which really gives a feeling of realism to the game, as it seems like you actually get to see the characters walking around rather than just teleporting from camera to camera like most Five Nights at Freddy's games. Another game that pulls this off really well is A Bite at Freddy's, a FNAF fan game I've covered on this channel, and you can watch my review of it after you finish this one. It's a fantastic video if I do say so myself, which I do. Anyways, on to Wednesday, which introduces 3 new threats, those threats being, hold on a second, 3? 3 new threats in one night? Did I read that right? Hold on, let me check. Oh my god. Yeah, that's right. 3 new animatronics become active on this night. God damn. Talk about going from 1 to 100 in a fraction of a second, good lord. Well, let's start going over them, shall we? Starting with the least infuriating of the 3, we have the puppet. An area of your office I have yet to mention is the prize corner, which is directly behind you. Here you will be able to see prizes. Who would have thought? This is also where you can see a bunch of fun references like Sonic, FNAF, Cuphead, and a bunch more. I had a lot of fun pointing out as many references as I could while playing, which you can see in my full playthrough on my second channel, Dexter Black. The puppet has a chance to appear at any time throughout the night behind you in the prize corner. It doesn't move through the cameras, so there's no way to predict when it's going to attack. However, thankfully it does play a sound cue that lets you know it has appeared behind you, telling you to get off that computer call and kiss it on its hot mouth. When you hear this bell jingling sound cue, you have to quickly whip around and find it in one of 3 locations with your flashlight. Once you find it, it'll quickly hide away like a bitch and you're free to continue. The puppet is really never a problem throughout the nights, acting more of an annoying distraction than a real threat. But now, I get the misfortune of talking about the other two threats that this night places in my anus. So let's cover the spawn camping dickhead Fredbear 2.0. Fredbear 2.0 doesn't appear on the cameras. Instead, he appears right outside of your right door. That's where he starts. Yeah, he begins the night already outside of your door. And that's the furthest away he'll ever get from you. Isn't that just the worst thing you've ever heard in your life? I think I'd rather be diagnosed with butthole cancer. Fredbear 2.0 has multiple phases before his actual attack. You'll have to constantly flash your light in the left doorway to check his progress, which takes your attention away from a crucial character you need to watch on the cameras, whom I will talk about in a moment. As he gets closer and closer, you'll get to hear him talking right in your fucking ear, which is a pain in the ass because I'm trying to listen for movements and bell jingling at the same time. So I'd really appreciate it if you'd hop off my cock. When Fredbear 2.0 gets to your door, he will crouch down to try to get in. Which, by the way, looks crazy cool. I love animations like this in FNAF games. It adds so much life to them. Something you'll notice about Fredbear 2.0 in comparison to the other animatronics that attack your doors is that he appears to linger at them for much longer than the others. You wouldn't be crazy for thinking that either, because he does. When Fredbear 2.0 crouches down, he won't instantly enter your office like Fredbear and Spring Bonnie do. Instead, he'll wait about 8 seconds before actually attacking you, giving you time to check on the puppet and Mr. Dickhole, who I'll be covering next. That may sound like a nice gesture. Aw, he's giving me time to worry about my other problems. What an emotionally intelligent guy. No, this guy is a dick. Something I should mention is that there is no power system. However, there is generator heat. What causes the generator to go up? That's right, using your doors. No matter how much you think you're going to be able to consistently time out when Fredbear 2.0 is going to attack, I promise you that you'll get it wrong a few times. And because you know that you're going to get it wrong, you'll probably feel inclined to play it safe and close it sooner than you technically need to. And this is where he gets you. Because even if you close the door early, his timer still has to count all the way down before he attacks, leaving you with your generator heat increasing while that dickhead just stands there like a dunce for half a century. On later nights, you'll be getting attacked pretty frequently, so having this guy waste even a few seconds with your door closed can be the cause of a run to end later down the line. Alright, I can't put it off any longer. I need to talk about the most infuriating character in this entire game. Spring Bonnie 2.0. Spring Bonnie 2.0 acts much like the original, slowly creeping his way through your cameras until he can reach your office. But there's something interesting to note about him. While he's on the cameras, you can see that he's covering his face often, almost like he's playing hide and seek. And the reason for that? It's because he literally is playing hide and seek. When his robot AI was being designed, they made a hide-and-seek function that was meant to be used to play with the kids, but instead it's being used to play with my ass like a bongo drum. That doesn't sound too bad, Dexter. I think you're overreacting. No. Bullshit. No, I'm not. Unlike Spring Bonnie, Spring Bitch 2.0 doesn't appear in your doorway. Instead, he'll just pile drive in. So the key is to watch the final camera he appears on. He has 3 phases in this long hallway, the final of which has him close up and personal to the camera. Once you see him there, he will run out of frame, and you need to quickly close the right door before he busts in and then busts in you. Wait! Before you type in the comments how I'm bad and that this isn't a hard mechanic at all, ooh, it's basically just Foxy, Dexter, you little bitch boy. Shut the hell up! That's what I thought at first too. However, there's one tiny little tweak that makes him worse than a hangnail that just keeps peeling your skin back the longer you pull on it. Unlike Foxy, who, when you look at him in the hall, his animation starts playing and then you close the door and the cycle continues. Simple. Nope. Not Spring Bussy 2.0. He's different. When you look at him on the cameras in his final phase, he won't immediately play his animation like Foxy does. Instead, he's kinda like Fredbear 2.0 in a way, where he has a timer for when he'll actually attack, bringing up the same issue as Fredbear 2.0, where you'll probably end up closing the door earlier than you need to and building up your generator heat. Mixing these two characters together is gruesome. Introducing them both at the same time, on top of another character that demands your attention consistently, downright vile. I'd rather stick my willy in the exhaust pipe of a running motorcycle than deal with these two douchebags ever again in my life. There is one final threat I have yet to mention, but because of the strategy I used to beat this game, I actually never encountered them, that threat being the Golden Cupcake. According to the wiki, he only appears on the third night. Amazing! Fuck 3 threats introduced at the same time, why not 4? He has a chance to appear on any camera, just acting as a visual annoyance. To get him to move, just switch to another camera and he'll disappear. I'm guessing because my strategy only had me using one camera throughout the entire night, it never gave him a chance to spawn. I'm not totally sure, and again, the wiki says he's only active on night 3. Why not nights 4, 5, and 6? I don't really know. This character seems like a weird inclusion. Let me know in the comments if you know more about this little guy. Hey there, Future Dexter here, coming in to inform you with some much needed corrections for something I mentioned earlier. I made a whole big point about introducing Fredbear 2.0 and Spring Bonnie 2.0 at the same time. Apparently, I'm retarded. Fredbear 2.0 isn't introduced until Thursday night. I apologize. I don't know how I got that so incredibly wrong. I probably just remembered how ass I thought that duo was together and misremembered them being introduced at the same time. I don't know. Again, I apologize. Let's get back to the goon session. The remainder of the nights are just more difficult variations of each other. No new characters are introduced. Something crazy you'll notice, however, is the incredible spike in difficulty after Wednesday. Who would have thought being bombarded by AIDS can do a real number on you? This is actually the most common criticism I've seen of this game. The difficulty curve isn't a curve. It's a steep cliff that you're at the bottom of. I recognize why people feel this way, but guys, I was able to beat it. You know, the guy that's actually probably the worst FNAF player of all time. If I did it, you can do it. I promise. Oh, something I decided to not talk about was what happens after each night. Every time you complete a night, we're put into a cutscene where Scott, which again is our character, is scanning the animatronics for paranormal activity. I'm not sure what the name of the device he's using is, but this is what he's doing. I know that because I know how to use context clues. Also because the wiki told me that's what he's doing here. Remember those phone calls I talked about at the beginning of the video? If I want to cover the lore, it's important I talk about those phone calls a bit more. I know. Ugh, Dexter's talking about the lore in a game. He's really bad at that. He's only funny when he's talking about the gameplay. I know. Trust me. I'm gonna try my best though, because the story in this game is honestly really, really cool, and I want to share it with you all. I don't want to be like some other game reviewers who tell you to just play the game for yourself to learn more. You're watching reviews to get a review. If you wanted to play the game, you'd just do that. You don't need me telling you to go play it. Night 2's phone call reveals that William has gotten a divorce, and apparently some of the workers are concerned that he's drowning himself in work. Henry tells him that safety comes first. Thank you, Henry. I would have never fucking guessed. Wednesday's call, William begins to brag about his new child-friendly animatronics. These animatronics he's talking about are Fredbear 2.0 and Spring Bastard 2.0. William reveals he's been studying child psychology. Uh-oh. In this day and age, there's only one direction this could be going. Just kidding. This isn't Dormitibus. It's not about to get weird. Afton claims his divorce is taking a toll on his mental health, but he's focusing on work to distract himself. Henry opens up about his feelings like a man never should. Some bullshit about how his only child Charlotte means so much to him, blah blah. Who cares, bro? I'm building fucking robots. That's way cooler than your lame-ass kid who can't even wipe her own ass properly. Thursday's phone call reveals that William wants to distance himself from his 2 sons and focus more on Elizabeth. I also noticed in this phone call that Afton seems a lot more passive-aggressive. Looking back on it now, that probably has something to do with his mental health. But while I was playing, I was rooting for William during these calls because of how sick and tired I was of Henry mentioning safety for the 200th time in a row. Additionally, on Thursday night, we learned that the diner is being shut down due to the disappearance of 6 children. I wonder who could have done that. Friday's phone call gets dark. Henry's daughter fucking died. RIP! Afton doesn't really seem to care. I'm with you there, William. Afton mentions he has to do something, and Henry tries to tell him to not do anything that might have negative consequences. William brushes this off as it seems he's too far gone. I'm assuming that these things that need to be done are the killing of the 6 kids. It's then around this time that William stuffs one of the kids, Cassidy McKay, into the Fredbear 2.0 suit and leaves her to rot inside Fredbear's family diner. Isn't it crazy how fucked up FNAF games are? I often forget how disturbing the actual story is when I'm making videos about these games. After the completion of Night 4, Scott scans Fredbear 2.0, and unlike the other characters scanned previously, the machine we have starts to go nuts when scanning Fredbear 2.0, likely because of the body of Cassidy inside. After the completion of Night 5, we get a monologue from William, explaining how he killed the kids and framed Henry.
It has been many years since the incident that changed everything. I have done unforgivable things since then. The missing children. It was all my doing.
We get the reveal of Circus Baby and hear about Elizabeth getting ganked by her. After the completion of Saturday, we get a cutscene of who I can only assume is Elizabeth, talking about needing to guide the other victims. I'm assuming Elizabeth because of how Baby guides throughout Sister Location, although I could be wrong on who this is. Finally, if you complete this game's max mode, you get one final cutscene, displaying William dying in the Spring Bonnie 2.0 suit, which is in 2D rather than 3D like the rest of the game for some unknown reason. And with that, that's all the Return to Bloody Nights has to offer as far as I'm aware. Overall, I really liked this game, but I can understand why a lot of people don't. Sure, it looks really pretty and the story is amazing, having us play as the phone guy from FNAF 1 and 2, but I think this game focuses too much on story and not enough on gameplay. Sure, the Game Jolt page does say it's primarily about the story, but I can still understand why people dislike the gameplay loop for being too repetitive and difficult, even though that's how most FNAF games end up panning out. I'm pretty sure the community liked Post Shift 2 more, which that game is just brutally difficult and confusing for the sake of being brutally difficult and confusing. So I guess that tells you where the community really is, where some appreciate Post Shift 2 over this game in terms of gameplay, which is wild, I will add. Infamous FNAF fan games. I'm sure just saying that has already caused a few games to pop into mind. One Night at Flumpty's, Five Nights at Candy's, The Joy of Creation, Those Nights at Rachel's, and for some, another franchise comes to mind. One whose name is incredibly ironic, a game whose name is an emotion that everyone wishes to have, although the game causes nothing but the opposite. A game I truly cannot fathom the popularity of. Rest assured, the FNAF fan game series we're covering today is bad. Very, very bad. Join me today as I dive into Jolly, the FNAF fan game series that broke me. Strap in, because this is the longest video I have ever made. Opening into the first cutscene, we're greeted by the newspaper, reading that restaurants have been closing everywhere due to the new Circus Baby's Pizza World. Tying this game into the official FNAF lore, the owner of Jolly Entertainment claims he will be competing with Circus Babies. And let me tell you, this fuck-ass restaurant doesn't stand a goddamn chance. Anyways, moving on to gameplay. Jolly seemed to think it'd be an amazing idea to take all of the good mechanics from Five Nights at Freddy's and say, yeah, I could make this worse. To start, we have a large window and one door. You'll notice that each are powered by a typical light switch, which is probably one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. On top of our cameras, we have a maintenance panel which gives us access to our generator. Basically, we have 100% power, like normal, and the generator has 150% power. So if our power gets low, we can use the generator's power to charge our power through this maintenance panel. This mechanic seems a little useless to me, honestly. Why not just give us more power or make our power last longer? Maybe just to give us another thing to distract us? I'm not totally sure. Your camera system is pretty bare bones. Jolly was made a long time ago. It's in the realm of series like Five Nights at Candy's in terms of age, so to an extent, I can forgive this game for being so dated. But rest assured, that doesn't mean I'm going to hold back on ripping it to shreds. Anyways, the cameras. I will give this game credit where it's due. The camera system actually has something I think is pretty cool. This game has 2 floors in the restaurant, with an elevator used to move from floor to floor.
I'm not seeing any sight of stairs either, which I'm pretty sure is an OSHA violation just waiting to happen. You can see the camera of this elevator, and on it you can actually cause the elevator to change floors, meaning that if an animatronic rides the elevator up to your floor, you can quickly send the elevator back down, causing them to need to use another movement opportunity to move it back up. But don't get too excited about this mechanic, as it is completely obsolete when I start talking about how stupidly fucking hard this game is for no reason whatsoever. So let's talk about Night 1, which starts off strong by introducing two characters, Tweety and George. Tweety uses the elevator to get to your office. If you watch my full playthrough on my second channel, Dexter Black, you'll be able to see me get plenty of enjoyment sending her stupid ass back downstairs every time she tried to come up to my floor. Oh, she didn't like that. She didn't like that I switched the elevator at all. Once she arrives at your office, you'll be able to see her in your window. Now pause. I want you to take a long look at this office. Notice how the window is literally nowhere near the fucking door? Yeah? So let me ask you, if you saw an animatronic in this window, would you ever, in a million years, think you need to close the door right when you see them? No? Well, you see, that's exactly what I thought too. But guess what, retard? You're completely wrong. For some reason, God knows why, the developer decided that this window was going to act like the windows from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, except neglecting the fact that the only reason the windows from FNAF 1 worked was because the window was directly next to the door, so it felt like there was no time before the character would arrive in your office. This game, that doesn't work, because you've placed the door a whole fucking football field in distance away from the window, so I'd have zero reason to think the animatronic currently staring at me would blow up my butthole like a Nachos Bel Grande. This is dumb, this is bad, really fucking bad. But whatever, really, once you eventually figure out that's how this mechanic works, it should be pretty simple, right? Just close the door and wait for them to go away. Well, yes, exactly. Close the door and wait approximately, I don't know, 400 years. Because the rate at which these stupid robots move away from your door is pretty much zero. It'd probably be faster to just sit in one spot and wait to die, honestly. But whatever, eventually they'll leave and then you're free to open your door. Except, psych moron, since this one took so long to leave, another robot is at your window again! Yay! And who's at your window? Well, probably George. George? How'd you get here? George moves through your camera vents. You'll notice on the vent cams that you'll be able to seal the vent to prevent the animatronics from moving through them. But those probably don't work as you'd expect them to. Let's migrate for a second and talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 3. In that game, when Springtrap enters your vent, you can seal it off, which in that instance, Springtrap's neurons start firing and send a message to the body saying, "Hey, let's get out of this vent. Clearly, we're unable to continue moving forward." Not in Jolly. There are no neurons to fire in these robots' heads. In their mind, they're just thinking, "Vent was open minute ago. Why no vent open now? I wait until vent open again, then I continue move." Yeah, that's right. The animatronics will never leave the vents after you seal them, so sealing them really acts more like a stalling system, except closing the vents drains your power, and because of that, it makes closing your vents literally fucking pointless. So basically, if you haven't been paying attention thus far, George crawls through your vents no matter what you do and eats your balls like a sirloin steak. Fantastic. It wouldn't be a FNAF game without a music box-like mechanic, now would it? Of course not. And rest assured, this game has one too, using a character by the name of Antoinette. Antoinette appears on camera 11 tied up in some wires. You'll see a graphic on this camera referencing 4 wires holding Antoinette in place. Every once in a while, one of these wires holding him back will break and you'll have to repair it, which takes around, 900 decades. If all of the wires break, he'll eat your butt. You'll realize, especially on later nights, that a wire is broken on this guy pretty much constantly, so you'll barely have any time to peel your eyes away from the cameras to work on other things. But realistically, I personally had no problems dealing with Antoinette throughout my playthrough, which by the way, you can check out on my second channel, Dexter Black. That's 2 plugs and we're just getting started. This is a long video, so sit your ass down. It also wouldn't be a game I fucking hate without post-night minigames that serve no purpose other than to be annoying. So let's talk about them. The post-night 1 minigame has you play as Jolly. All you have to do is walk into parts and service where you watch Antoinette go on an elevator and the minigame ends. That's it. Wasn't that just awful? Well, get ready because they're only going to get worse from here. Night 2. What new ass does this bring out? Well, do you remember George? The guy I talked about like 2 minutes ago? Well, Night 2 brings on Maxie. Why did I bring up George? Well, because Maxie is literally just George. She moves into the vent, then to your window. The only difference? Maxie is more aggressive than George is. And George is already pretty damn aggressive, so hearing that was amazing news for me. You know, I think I'd rather grind my ass on a cheese grater than worry about this stupid game that I hate so much. Night 2 post-night minigame time! In this minigame, we play as Jolly again. You, once again, walk into the parts and service room and see Antoinette tied up in wires. At the bottom of the screen, text appears stating, "It's okay." After that, you walk out of the room and you're attacked by an employee and the minigame ends. Riveting gameplay, what can I say? Night 3 brings on the big boy himself, Jolly. And I mean big boy. This dude is round as fuck. You push this guy over and his ass is gonna roll for a long time. He is incredibly boring, much like this entire game. He goes to the elevator and then to your window. He's literally just Tweety, but less aggressive, and seems to sit at your door for about 4 times as long, which is great because Tweety already sits there for ages. Something interesting about Jolly though, if you don't close the door in time, instead of killing you, he'll stand in your doorway looking at you, blocking you from closing the door using his astronomically sized belly. This motherfucker uses the asteroid belt to keep his pants up. Fat piece of shit robot. Night 3's post-night minigame. Is it fun? No. In this one, you play as Jolly. Surprise, surprise. A bunch of kids are standing around, so we quickly vacate the area because the only thing that scares me more than women are children. I hate children. We have to go to the kitchen. Inside, we see the employee from the last minigame who fucked our shit up. Except this time, he just fucks our shit up again. Aren't you getting so much lore and useful information from these minigames? What? You're not? Well, I can't say I'm surprised because these minigames are more useless than a white crayon. Nights 4 and 5 literally add nothing new to the central gameplay loop, so let's just talk about their post-night minigames. Night 4's minigame has you play as Tweety. Just kidding, you play as Jolly. You once again have to go to the kitchen. This time, the employee is preparing a meal. Once you move to the party room where you started, you get your shit rocked by the employee. Why? I have no idea. I guess this guy just hates us. Why he doesn't just destroy us is beyond me if we're causing him this much grief. Night 5's post-night minigame is actually a bit different. We play in the perspective of Jolly, seemingly dismantled in the kitchen. After looking around and being useless for a bit, text appears at the top of the screen that states, "Look at what you've done." And the minigame comes to an end. Something different, finally. Took long enough. But what does this tell us? Well, a whole lot of nothing, really. There's clearly a story being told somewhere here, but I can't for the life of me figure out what it is quite yet. Night 6 is nothing new, just hard as fuck. Really, the strategy in this game boils down to flash the light, wait, flash the light, wait, fix Antoinette when needed, and close the door when needed. Incredibly boring, not fun, a lot of RNG required because all the characters decide they want to forget how to walk once they reach our fucking window. But that's really all Jolly 1 has to offer. This game is incredibly fucking hard. I really didn't spend a lot of time talking about how difficult it is, but dear God, it is really unenjoyable to play. You can see my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dexter Black. But now, let's move from a game that's way too hard to a game that's way too easy. Jolly 2. That's right, baby. Everybody give cheers for video game balancing. Hip hip. Fuck! Jolly 2 takes place on a cargo ship, where the animatronics are being moved to a different location. For some reason, we're also here, guarding the cargo. From what? Pirates? I have no fucking idea. This is such an odd plot point. I actually think it's kinda cool. Too bad the rest of the game is a snooze fest though. Let's talk about it. Night 1 introduces classic George and Bonnie. That's right, For some reason, this game is mixing in its own characters with the official FNAF characters. It's like a fan fiction, but in game form, and awful. Both in your cameras and on your left and right doors, you'll find a shock button. This button can be used to shock the animatronics. Can you believe it? When you shock an animatronic, it will cause them to go into a system reboot. Who really cares what it does? It makes them piss off, so use it when it makes sense. One extra thing to note is that the shock on the cameras is less effective than the ones at your doors, so the camera shock is really used to stall animatronics from reaching your doors, since the shocks on your doors have a very long cooldown time. Want to hear something really cool? Well, the cooldown wasn't enough to keep this game interesting. So what was added to keep the game just as uninteresting and even more fucking annoying as possible was the addition of 4 leaky pipes found behind you. Every once in a while, one of these pipes will start leaking gas. When the gas is leaking, you can't use your shocks. Want to guess why? Because the gas will cause the shock to travel to you. That literally does not make any fucking sense at all. While yes, gas can conduct electricity, given the wide space of moving electrons, the power that travels through the gas would be nowhere near powerful enough to cause any meaningful harm to us. But screw it. Whatever, sure. Let's imagine that does make sense. When one of these pipes is leaking, all you have to do is turn around and click it. That's it. Jesus Christ, you might as well have just not even bothered adding this mechanic because it can be solved in 2 seconds. Did not make this game more interesting at all. Anyways, the animatronics, how about those guys? Oh yeah, George and Bonnie. George moves around the cameras, meanders into your vents, which thankfully this time don't have a useless ceiling mechanic, and then reaches your left door. When he's there, shock that bitch. Easy. Bonnie is much the same, except he attacks your right door instead. Very boring, I don't care. Oh wait, want to hear something super crazy, fun, and silly? You can't see the animatronics when they're at your door. Can you hear them? No! What you have to do is constantly be watching the cameras, which is something I actually think this game does really well. It forces you to watch the cameras without a stupid fucking music box mechanic. Characters never move backwards in Jolly 2, so if a character is at a corner door camera one moment and then the next they're not, that means they're at your door and you need to shock them. Don't think I'm going to start gushing over this game. This watching cameras mechanic was done well. The rest of everything else ever was not. Night 2 introduces Chica. She's actually pretty interesting, except the funny part is that I just lied, because she's actually not interesting in the slightest. All she does is travel to the middle of the map and then attack your left door like George. This is some I got the right answer but used the wrong formula animatronic.
How the fuck did you get that answer? No, it's the right answer, but you didn't use my method, you little fucking shit. I'll tell you what you've done. Essentially, you've just shit in my fucking mouth. Do you like doing that? Do you like shitting in people's mouths, you little freak?
Oh hey, I should probably mention the post-night plush trap style minigame, shouldn't I? After each night, you'll be able to play a minigame called Time to Sleep with Foxy, which, by the way, is the only time he makes an appearance in this game. Time to Sleep consists of you attempting to take a nap in the cargo ship, but Foxy thinks it would be really funny to tickle your feet and make you squeal. While you sit on your bed, your sleep meter will increase. However, you'll be able to see 2 entrances to your room where Foxy can attack. If you listen closely, you'll be able to hear him moving on either side. When you do, you'll have to go over to that door and flash your light at him. Note, when you're not on your bed, your sleep meter decreases, and Foxy is pretty damn aggressive, so have fun never making progress in your entire life. If you manage to beat the minigame in time, you get to skip the first 2 hours of the next night, and this is crucial. Not because the nights are hard, but because they're so incredibly fucking boring I'd rather put a gun in my mouth than play them ever again. Night 3 brings along Freddy. Spoiler alert, he's boring. Kind of. He at least does something a little different. Rather than attack one of your doors, he can attack either. It's still the same method of stopping him, but he can just choose to attack either door, so I guess that's progress into being interesting land. Nothing else much more to note here, pretty boring overall. I will say it's on this night that using your camera shock to stall the characters starts to become useful, so I guess that's something. Night 4 introduces the man, the myth, the literal wrecking ball of a robot, Classic Jolly.
Brother, this guy stinks!
Jolly does something crazy that actually makes this game pretty fun. Psych, moron, I fucking lied. All he does is attack your right door exactly like every other animatronic does. Somehow, the main character of the game is less interesting than one of the others, which is just crazy to me that you could even make that happen. Nights 5 and 6 are just harder versions of Night 4, with nothing changing. Oh, and also, they're still not very hard at all, so that's cool. Well, I guess all that's left to talk about are the post-night minigames. Dexter, haven't you already talked about Time to Sleep? Well, yes, I have. However, this game also added in stupid, boring-ass shit 8-bit minigames just like the first game, except somehow managed to make them even more boring. Let's talk about them. Night 1's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom, where in this universe he would presumably kill them, rather than in the back room like in the actual game. Why this detail is changed even though they're adding their story to the original is beyond me. Night 2's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom. Night 3's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom. Night 4's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom. Are you getting sick of this yet? Night 5's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into a bathroom. Wasn't this segment totally worth your time? No? Well, you watched it anyways. So basically, if your brain doesn't work, Afton killed the kids. Wow, shocker. I would have never been able to figure that out without your expert opinion game. Thank you. There is a true ending in this game, however. If you die on night 5, 6, or go to the extras menu and click a small Jolly sprite in the corner, you'll be brought to a minigame exactly like Sister Location, where you have to strategically throw burgers into the mouths of some fat-ass kids. After that, you can collect a bonus hamburger and go to the second floor of the minigame and stand on an invisible platform. After that, jump to the right side of the screen and you'll be teleported to a new minigame. In this new minigame, you'll find a girl in a pink shirt crying like a bitch. Once she sees Jolly, she hugs him, but Afton quickly grabs her and we cut to a cutscene where we're in front of an arcade machine slowly panning out, and the game ends, giving you the true ending. What have I gathered from this? Well, in one of the post-night minigames, we see that it's Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, which I'm pretty sure has never been an event that has ever taken place at a restaurant in history. But I'm gonna take a solid guess that the girl that hugged Jolly in the final minigame was the daughter of the security guard we've been playing as. This game is really pulling at my heartstrings, guys. But that's all Jolly 2 has to offer. This game is somehow marginally worse than the first, which I think deserves a medal because after playing the first game, I didn't think that was possible. Jolly 2 is so incredibly easy that you could probably beat it blindfolded. None of the mechanics are engaging in any way, and the story in no way makes up for the gameplay's shortcomings. Overall, it's a very terrible game that I don't think you should ever play in a million years. Let's move on to the final game in the series, which unfortunately for me, is broken up into 2 chapters, so it's borderline 2 more games I have to cover, and I'm not excited at all, because it's these 2 games that really began to break me. Jolly 3 Chapter 1, aka Where the Rage Begins. How do I even begin? Well, I suppose I should start at the beginning. That would probably make the most sense. The game begins with a cutscene of a car driving to a factory and our player running inside. With a zoom in on a broken Jolly animatronic, his eyes light up, letting us know he's ready to open up a can of whoop ass on us. In this game, our goal is to go into an abandoned Jolly factory and grab some artifacts, which makes it sound like this is about to be like Indiana Jones. However, while those movies are great, this game is not. Loading into this game's control room, which acts as the office, I'm immediately greeted to the shitty fucking smell of Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location. What do I mean by that? Well, open your eyes and take a look at this office. Does this not look at all slightly familiar to you? If it doesn't, then you're stupid or have never seen Sister Location before, because this office is pretty much identical to the control room from Sister Location, with 2 large windows on each side of us that can be lit up via a light button and an exit directly in front of us. In Sister Location, it was a vent. In this game, it's a giant door. Flashing our lights, on the left we can see Tweety, and on the right we can see either Maxie or George. I'm pretty sure this is Maxie, since I'm pretty sure the animatronic that sits next to Jolly on the cameras is George, but it could be the other way around. Also in the office is a big lever. Pulling it will release gas from the pipes on the ceiling. That gas fries animatronics. Oh boy, can you take a guess where this is going? That's right, this game is about to mix elements of Sister Location, which is terrible, and the stand in your office mechanic from Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is also pretty terrible. We're already set up for a great time. But I can't go any further without complaining about one of the worst things to ever come out of any game, literally ever, designed by anyone: the Click Team mouse. More specifically, the Sister Location Click Team mouse. If you've ever played Sister Location, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you've only ever seen people play this game and Sister Location, let me fill you in on the horrible experience that it is. Click Team Fusion, the engine used to create most FNAF fan games and every official FNAF game up until Ultimate Custom Night, has a few interesting quirks that almost every game that uses them suffers from. The main problem is in games like Five Nights at Freddy's games that try to fake a 3D effect by having you look back and forth. A lot of the time, especially in Sister Location, you'll be able to see weird distortions on the side of the screen, making the entire game look like it's shaped like a fucking cylinder. And because of this, the mouse has a pretty significant and horrendous issue. While you look from side to side in the office, since we're not actually in a 3D space and what we're looking at is actually just a 2D image being warped to appear 3D, you'll notice that as the mouse hits the exact center of the screen, it looks like the mouse gets locked on the X-axis, and as soon as the screen reaches the end of the 2D image, it looks like the mouse unlocks and can continue to move freely. While I say the mouse is, quote, locked, it actually really isn't. It's moving just as freely as it would when it's on the sides of the screen, but because we're faking a 3D environment in an engine that can't natively do 3D, it leads to this awkward and janky mouse movement that not only looks weird, but feels even weirder. I cannot fucking stand this mouse. I hated Sister Location for it, and I hate Jolly for it even more, because this game is already just hot dog shit ass as it is. But anyways, back to actually talking about the gameplay. Using this gas lever drains our gas. No shit. Where else were you thinking it went? In our cameras, we can open up a special menu, and in this menu, we can refill this gas supply. Where is the gas coming from? Fuck you, that's where. Also on the cameras, you'll see a fan meter. Each camera has its own fan. If the fan ever breaks, which trust me, they will be doing very frequently, your vision will begin to go dark and you will die unless you fix them. Fixing them is easy. There's actually a repair fan button right on each camera. But how do you tell which camera's fan is broken when there's an error? I'm sure you could take a pretty solid guess, and you'd probably be right. You just have to check every single fucking camera until you find the right one. And this will be incredibly annoying due to a character I'll talk about in a minute, but that character is not active on night 1. So who is? There are only 3 characters active on night 1. 3 may sound like a lot for a first night, but one of them is kind of different, so we'll cover him first. In case you have forgotten, Jolly has injected itself into the official game's lore, so all of the original FNAF animatronics are here again, just like in Jolly 2. Metal Foxy is active on night 1. Why are the FNAF characters called metal? I don't really know. Were they not metal before? I have no clue. If at any point one of your camera fans completely breaks, Foxy will appear in the darkness and kill you. That's all he does. I don't know why Jolly hates giving Foxy actual in-night mechanics, but whatever. One character I really don't ever have to worry about, and I actually never even saw because I'm just so goddamn good at gaming. Which, by the way, you can see on my second channel, Dexter Black. Also, fuck it, while I'm shilling the Black channel, go subscribe to my third channel, Dexter Blue, too. You've made it this far in the video, so you must be enjoying my rambling at least a little bit, and I do a bunch of that over on Dexter Blue. Over there, I play any games that aren't Five Nights at Freddy's related, so I encourage you to go check it out. Thanks. Back to the cesspool. Another character introduced on this night is Withered Tweety. Withered Tweety is as boring as a character can get. She pisses around on the cameras and eventually jumps headfirst into your office to give you head. But pause. Think, dumbass. It's a robot. Don't have intercourse with it. It's not even a hot robot, so I don't even know why you'd want to anyways. Once she's in your office, just spray some gas on her and she'll leave. The final character introduced on this night is Withered Maxie. She does literally the exact same thing Tweety does. Meanders around the camera and eventually wanders her way into your office. Same shit, different suit, really. Spray her with some of your liquid hot ass gas and she'll run out of the room holding her nose because you smell like shit. As much as I'd love to just start talking about night 2 in order to get this shit over with as fast as possible, we unfortunately have some sister location level bullshit ass minigames to talk about that take place between each night. So let's talk about the first night's fuck ass minigame. The whole point of these minigames is to find these relics that we came to this building looking for. Throughout this game, we're talking to a guy named Theo over the phone, who instead of coming into the building with us to help out, decided he'd rather be a pussy bitch and just call us on the phone the whole time like a clingy girlfriend. Theo leads us into test room 1 and tells us to find a locked safe. After doing so, the security system in the room goes off, and of course, the animatronics are a part of that system. And of course, Tweety is in the room with us. Theo tries to hack the safe but can't, so he sends us a program on our phone that we can use to force the security system off and then use to crack the safe. And for some reason, this program has us play some fuck-ass minigame instead of actually being useful. The goal of this game is to pulse electricity from one door to another, and guide that electricity by using arrows. Every time you click on a square, it creates an arrow, and subsequent clicks turn that arrow 90 degrees. You get it, the idea is simple. So why am I complaining? Well, you see these 20 dots on the left side of your screen? Yeah? You have to do this fuck-ass shit 20 goddamn times. And what makes this take even longer than it already would take? Tweety. Tweety works similarly to Funtime Freddy in his minigame from Sister Location, wherein, while you're trying to play the minigame, Tweety slowly creeps towards you. Every once in a while, you'll have to drop your phone and flash your lights at her over and over again until she goes away. Want to hear the best part? She's voice acted, just like Sister Location, and she only has about 3 fucking lines. And since this minigame takes so long to complete, you can bet your ass we're going to hear each line about 30 times. Doesn't this just sound like a blast? But after you complete all 20 randomly generated puzzles, the security system shuts off and we're free to continue on to night 2. However, before I begin talking about this night, I want to make something clear about the metal animatronics. I do not know exactly what nights they will be introduced for certain. The wiki doesn't inform me, and I don't feel like surfing through hours of Jolly footage just to figure it out. I'll take a guess on the metal animatronics, but keep in mind it might be wrong. The non-official FNAF characters, I do know. Just thought I'd put that out there before we continue. Just kidding! There's still a shitty post-night 8-bit minigame to talk about first. Don't you just hate being alive? In this minigame, we play as a guy named Eric who just got a job at the Jolly restaurant. We're shown around by our boss and told specifically not to go in this room. Afterwards, we go right into that room and get threatened by our boss on the first day. Wonderful. Oh, also, if you walk out of bounds, you can find Antoinette just kind of fucked everywhere on the walls. Anyways, now we can talk about night 2. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, George and Metal Chica. Let's get George out of the way because he's the most boring. Can you guess how he works? If you said exactly the same as Tweety and Maxie but with a different movement pattern, then you'd be correct. Moves around the cameras, enters your office, spray him with gas, and he pisses off. Repeat. Now we can talk about the most annoying fucking character in this whole game. Earlier, I mentioned that there was a character that in combination with your broken fan problem becomes incredibly infuriating. Metal Chica is that very character. Metal Chica has a random chance to appear on a camera every time you switch cameras or open your camera. She's basically the same as Phantom Balloon Boy from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, except with one key annoying difference. When you see Phantom Balloon Boy in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, all you have to do is either close your camera or switch cameras to avoid his attack. Nope, not Metal Chica, she sucks more than your mom. When you see her on your cameras, your only option is to close the cameras. If you just switch cameras, even though she's disappeared from your sight, she will still jump scare you. This may seem like such a small thing to bitch about. Oh, Dexter, you're just nitpicking. It's not really that bad. Fuck you. Yes, it is. I guarantee that if you've played FNAF games before, you've grown accustomed to mechanics just like this. And for some reason, this is the only one that doesn't let you just switch cameras to avoid it. So I guarantee you'll have built up some muscle memory that will lead to you just to switch cameras. But guess what, fucker? That doesn't work anymore. No, it's not hard, but do you know how annoying it is to try and break that habit of just switching cameras? It's a bitch. And of course, when there's a broken fan, you have to already quickly swap between cameras at light speed. So you'll already have your muscles set on focusing on switching cameras as fast as possible to find the broken one. Oh, were you focused on watching the repair fan button that you didn't notice Metal Chica was on one of your cameras for a fraction of a fucking second? Well, guess what? Even though you looked at her for no time at all, get jump scared, dickhead. Ivan G, fuck you for this dumbass mechanic right here. However, there is one small redeemable thing about getting jump scared by any metal animatronic that isn't Foxy, and that's that you won't lose the night, just like the Phantoms from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Instead, your gas system will just fucking break, and you'll have to repair it on your cameras and then completely refill your gas, which on early nights isn't a big deal. But on later nights, it does become a small problem because of how frequently animatronics will be in your office drooling all over you. Alright, let's talk about the next bullshit post-night scavenger hunt for goodies. On this night, you actually have the option of picking 2 different rooms. You'll eventually have to go to the other one anyways though, so I'll just go over which one I chose on this night. I chose to go into Maxie's room, which is a mistake I will regret for the rest of my life, because this section is fucking brutal. Same deal as last time. Find a safe, trigger the security alarm, do some bullshit on your phone while defending yourself from an animatronic. The difference? Well, the thing you have to do on your phone this time is actually more aids than aids itself. You will be sent lines of code by Theo to build a program that will shut down the system's firewall so that Theo can hack the security system and the safe, even though he's already done this exact thing once before. The lines of code are case sensitive, and you will only have a certain amount of time to write each line before it refreshes and you have to start all over. So if you're not a fast typer, then I'm sorry, this will be a challenge for you. I have no idea exactly how many lines you need to type, but if I had to guess, it would probably be somewhere in the ballpark of between 20 and 30. This is bullshit. Maxie will be attacking you the whole time. Defending yourself is easy, just put your phone down and stare at her. The problem? She takes forever to move, and the timer on your phone will still be counting down. This minigame takes so goddamn fucking cocksucking long to complete. I think it took me probably a solid 20 minutes to finish on my first playthrough, which you can find on my second channel, Dexter Black. I'm so fucking drained, guys, you don't understand what this series is doing to me, and writing this script, having to relive my trauma that I had thought I had put behind me is absolutely brutal. So please, let's just move on. After completing that bullshit, we move on to the Night 2 post-night minigame 8-bit minigame. Did you catch all that? I don't really care. Let me tell you, this minigame isn't a minigame, it's just a cutscene. Eric is bringing his daughter to work with him, and if you remember, this is an event that happened in one of the 8-bit minigames from Jolly 2. Eric walks into the building and very quickly walks back out to tell his daughter Zoe to not enter the building. He doesn't explain why, but begs her to stay in the car before re-entering the building. And that's where the minigame ends. You know, sometimes when I'm playing a game, I think, wow, this gameplay is truly unrivaled by any other game I've ever played. This game is not one of those games, by the way. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters that I hate, Metal Bonnie and Metal Freddy. Metal Freddy is less rage baity, so let's talk about him first. Metal Freddy has a chance to appear in your office at any time. When he does, all you have to do is flip up the camera within 3 seconds and he'll go away. If you don't, he'll jump scare you and fuck your gas system, which again, can be a huge problem on later nights given how often someone will be in your office. Now, let's talk about Metal Bonnie, and why I hated him so fucking much until I discovered the mega ultimate epic ass Metal Bonnie strategy. Metal Bonnie has a chance to appear in your windows every time you flash your light in them. If he appears anytime you do this, he will immediately jump scare you and fuck your gas supply. In a FNAF game where lights are always a crucial mechanic, this may sound brutal, but you haven't heard about my mega ultimate epic ass Metal Bonnie strategy yet. Basically, the way you perform the mega ultimate epic ass metal body strategy is just by not flashing your lights ever. Yeah, forgot to mention that this is literally a worthless mechanic, because you never need to see out of these windows to ever progress through the night at all. It took me an embarrassingly long time to figure that out, and you can see how stupid I was in my full playthrough on my second channel, Dexter Black. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it, and I did it. I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it was a possibility, and I did it anyways. Now, after beating that night, we can talk about the lovely Night 3 post-night minigame. So which door are we gonna pick here? Let's do this one. Oh, fuck, what the dick? Okay, well, we just got jumped and ganked by Antoinette. What the hell happened? Wait, where are we? Oh shit, we're on a conveyor belt or something. It's at this moment some random bitch starts talking at us.
What brings you here? In this harmonious place of ours?
Apparently, she knows we're stealing, and she's about to F us in the A. The conveyor belt turns on, and we start getting moved towards a giant fucking spiky crusher that would never under any circumstance ever be in a factory. We're shown we have to rapidly spam the up and down arrows on our keyboard to stop ourselves from dying. When I tell you that you have to spam fast as fuck, I mean it. However fast you think you can spam, I bet it's just barely fast enough. If you stop for even a fraction of a second, you will launch towards that crusher at fucking Mach 25. And how long do you have to spam for? 2 full minutes. 2 full minutes of pressing 2 keys, quite literally as fast as you can, without ever slowing in your tempo even once. I'm shaking as fuck. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. I'm shitting myself on this motherfucking conveyor belt right now, bro! Don't make me do it! I'll short my pants on this fucking conveyor belt, on God, I swear to God! Fuck me, I'm gonna die! I'm dead as fuck! Say goodbye to my children! I don't have children, children suck! Fuck, I'm shitting my pants and pissing them too! I'm so sorry! Oh my God, fuck, I'm gonna die as fuck! I'm shitting myself! It's all down to my shoes and my socks! It's all stuck in my This right here is the worst fucking thing throughout this entire series. It truly does not get worse than this. My arms fucking hurt badly after finishing this section. It actually took me 2 attempts because I couldn't do it for long enough on my first try. This shit sucks, and it sucks hard. People say that Jolly 3 Chapter 1 is the best game in the franchise. They're fucking wrong. This is actually the worst shit I've ever played through in my entire life. I would rather sandpaper my ball sack than ever touch this stupid shit ass section ever again. Now, after that disaster, does the Night 3 post-night minigame, post-minigame, 8-bit minigame do anything that's interesting? Well, yes, actually it does. I was pleasantly surprised at how interesting this minigame actually was. In it, we play as Zoe, who, like a rebel, disobeys her dad and enters the building anyways. It's incredibly dark inside, and after a bit of wandering, she's captured by Eric's boss, who, by the way, was William Afton if you couldn't guess. We're shown Zoe crying in a dark room, and we hear the dialogue between William, who's in the dark back room, and Eric, who's locked outside. Inside of the back room along with Zoe are 4 other children, and we get to hear William argue with Eric as he brutally murders all 4 children, leaving Zoe for last, and forcing Eric to listen and watch as his daughter is murdered in front of his eyes. This is some of the most demented shit I've ever seen, but I actually think it's really cool. Not often in FNAF games do we ever get this close to seeing the terrible acts committed by the villains. And while no, I'm not eager to watch child murder, I think portraying it through these 8-bit minigames is a great way to let the game get serious without actually showing anything horrendously vile. Good job, Jolly. This cutscene is actually really cool, and I can appreciate that. But let's get back to the shit show. Night 4 introduces Jolly himself. Can you guess what he does? Fuck you, he just walks into your office, gas him and he's gone. Yes, every single non-metal character in this game acts exactly the same way. I'm not kidding, they're all identical, just with different patterns for how they get around the map. This is actually such garbage gameplay, I don't really have anything to compare it to. It's just embarrassing and a spit in the face to the player. Want a cherry on top? Jolly is the last character introduced in this game, which means Night 5 is going to be the same repetitive bullshit, but just with some more RNG. Aren't you excited? Now, for the post-night minigame, we finally get to go into the room we tried to get into last night. And the room I chose again could have been chosen on night 2. If you chose this room, you'd be forced into the maxi room on this night. This one is really easy. All you do is find the safe and type in the code Theo gives you. That's it. No security fuck up, just typing in the code and you're home free. The only thing is that the lights to the room turn off and you get a long ass monologue from the girl who tried to squish you to death in the previous night. It's just the typical, "You don't understand our pain" bullshit you've heard 1,000 times before. When the lights turn back on, you can see the faces of the 4 main animatronics, implying that the soul in Jolly is Zoe, Eric's daughter. Zoe tells us to fix the past so history doesn't repeat itself, and then we're free to continue without any bullshit minigame that makes me want to rip my foreskin into pieces and throw them into the air like confetti. The Night 4 post-night minigame, post-minigame, 8-bit minigame consists of Eric on a boat, which I can only guess is the cargo ship from Jolly 2. We have to dodge guards' flashlights to stay out of their sight, and eventually jump into the back of an unmarked van. Which, by the way, I would never suggest anybody do because that's just a terrible idea. But after that, the minigame is over and we can move on. And please, dear God, let us move on because I'm starting to run out of steam here. Before we begin Night 5, Theo calls us and tells us he wants us to grab a fucking animatronic out of the factory and bring it with us. Are you fucking serious right now? You want me to grab one of the fucking murder robots? Are you out of your fucking mind? I think you're crazy. Eat my ass. I'm gonna do it anyways though, so I guess let's just get through the 5th night. I'm not gonna bore you by talking about it because again, it's just a more RNG bullshit version of Night 4, so let's not waste any time and talk about what happens after you beat it. After completing Night 5, we head back to the Octagon and get a call from Theo. He thinks there might be an unactivated animatronic somewhere deeper in the factory. He apologizes and said that he knows we're tired, but to think about all of the money and recognition we'll get if we can pull this off. This seems like the most classic case of manipulation I've ever seen. But even knowing that, let's continue to fall for it every single time anyways. It's what happens in every single relationship, right? And hey, if we've all made it through one of those, what's stopping us from doing it one more time in Jolly? But this is where Jolly 3 Chapter 1 ends, with us heading deeper into the factory on the hunt for an animatronic to take back with us. Will this end up working out for us? We'll find out next week in the next Dexter White video. No, I'm just kidding. We're finishing this up now. Alright, let's wrap this shit up, huh? Jolly 3 Chapter 2 continues directly after Chapter 1. Who would have thought? We travel down an elevator into the Jolly Entertainment underground facility in search of a deactivated animatronic. Theo marks a spot on our map, and we actually get to travel around the building much like the movement system in A Shadow Over Freddy's, which by the way is a game I've covered on this channel on Dexter White. You should watch that video after you watch this one. And fuck it, subscribe to Dexter Black and Dexter Blue because this video is sucking my soul out of my body right now. Anyways, after arriving at a door, we scan a key card we have and a robot tells us that we don't have access and to quote, return to our quarters in turn. This audibly confuses Theo and reveals that we are playing as someone who has previously worked for Jolly Entertainment. And if I had to guess who, my money would be on Eric being our main character throughout the games. After a bit more exploring, we enter a security office and a tape begins to play from the CEO of Jolly Entertainment, teaching us how to be night guards. We're told that we'll be put to the test before getting the job, and that he's placed 2 deadly robots in the building to defend ourselves from. Really? This is how you test your interns? Fuck, I see why we quit. But whatever. Instead of letting him explain it, I'm going to explain it because I'm the YouTuber, and it would seem lazy if I just played the phone call out in its entirety, no matter how badly I want to do that so that I don't have to write about this fuck-ass game any longer. Let's get the biggest elephant out of the room, the camera system. This camera system is like nothing I've ever seen in a FNAF game ever, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually really like it. It took me a bit to get used to it, but it's actually pretty cool. The cameras are split up into 4 quarters. Clicking on any of them will zoom in and give you a normal looking FNAF camera map, but with only 3 to 4 buttons on each. meaning if you want to check on another camera, you have to exit the quarter you're in and select another one. I feel like this makes the pressure of going through the cameras just a bit more interesting and tense, and I think that's something these games have been missing, so good job, Jolly. Anyways, there are only 2 animatronics that can actually end your night in this entire game, and go figure, they're both active on night 1. These characters are Jolly and George. You'll notice in this game that Jolly has taken his head off, and a skinned human head can be seen in its place. Just something Sigma I thought I'd bring up, but yes, this is Jolly. Both characters act the same way, just attacking different doors in your office. Once they get to your office, you'll have to jam their signal. Fun fact, you can tell George is at your office by his glowing eyes like he's straight out of Five Nights at Candy's, so dealing with him is super easy. Jolly, however, is a bit of a tricky one. You cannot see his eyes at the door. So how do you know he's there? Now's a good time to talk about the maintenance panel located behind you. If you turn around, you'll find this panel, and it has 3 tabs located on it. Let's talk about the jammer tab first, since I've already mentioned it. Going to the jammer tab, you'll be able to activate the jammer. Damn, did you need a PhD to figure that one out, fuckface? When Jolly or George is at your door, you have to use the jammer to make them go away. But then the jammer has to recharge, which takes a pretty long damn time. If you ever use the jammer when nobody is at your door, the cooldown will last even longer, so really make sure you know where everyone is. I mentioned not being able to see Jolly at your door. Well, first of all, watching your cameras is important, so that'd probably help. Keeping your eyes on George isn't a big deal because you can see him, but Jolly is someone you're going to want to watch. He actually has 2 paths to your left door, the long way, aka the way you want him to go, and the short way, aka the way you don't want him to go. I'm sure you can guess why. Ding ding ding, because of the jammer cooldown. Good job, here, you get a cookie. Anyways, you can always double check where both George and Jolly are by using the radar tab on your maintenance panel. I'm sure you can guess what it does. It pings both of their locations on the map. This way you can tell for sure that Jolly is at your door if context clues on the camera aren't enough for you. However, every time you use the radar there is an incredibly long cooldown, so only use it when you really can't find Jolly. But woohoo! You beat the night and we get to move on to the post-night 1 minigame, which by the way are way better than the post-night minigames from chapter 1. You'll be sat in front of a computer. You're tasked with decrypting 10 files each night, which each take a decent amount of time. However, while you're doing this, you'll be being attacked by Rusty Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Their mechanics are very easy. Every once in a while, you'll hear the sound of a door opening. When you hear it, you'll need to quickly turn around. You'll easily be able to tell which door has been opened, and you need to run over to that door and listen for breathing, just like Five Nights at Freddy's 4. If you hear breathing, you need to flash your light to scare the animatronic away and then lock the door. If you don't hear breathing, then all you need to do is lock the door without flashing your light. Then go back to decrypting. Decrypt all the files and you're home free. All of the animatronics act the same, by the way, so I'm not covering each of them here. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, Shadow Tweety and Shadow Maxie. Shadow Maxie is not ass, so let's talk about her first. She is literally exactly the same as Metal Chica from chapter 1, spawning on a camera and fucking you up if you don't put the camera down, except she acts much like a shadow puppet from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, where she'll fuck up your vision and stun you for a while if she jump scares you. So definitely don't let that happen or you will probably die. Shadow Tweety, on the other hand, is a dick. She will slowly start building herself in your office the longer you look forward. Turning around will make her slowly deconstruct. If she ever finishes building herself, she'll jump scare you and cause a ventilation error. Oh wait, shit, I didn't talk about errors. Just like Five Nights at Freddy's 3, you have 3 errors: ventilation, camera, and AC, all of which can happen at complete random, and you'll have to waste a bunch of time repairing them on your maintenance panel. Choosing not to fix any of them can obviously lead to some major issues, so how about you just do it, you little bitch? But that's really about it. Complete the night and you move on to the decryption minigame again, and then back to the night section. No new characters are ever added, it's just harder and harder every time. Same thing goes for the decryption minigame, so there's really not much more to talk about until the end of the 5th night. After completing the 5th night, we get a short cutscene letting us know we have passed the test and we can work here full time, which also explains why we have a keycard in the first place. Theo gives us a call and tells us that the oxygen system in the building has been tampered with. He gives us coordinates to the control room and we have to book it through the building to fix it. It's at this time I get to tell you about a bunch of fucking bullshit. This time, while roaming around the building, George is active and moving around too. And getting around him is the most fucked bullshit on the face of the earth. I literally don't know how to describe how to beat him because I really don't even know what I did. It seems like every single possible movement ends in a death. You have this hold your breath mechanic you're supposed to use, but there is no visual cue to let you know when you're safe to pass him. What you're supposed to do is hold your breath and wait, then exhale and walk past him. You might think, oh, hold your breath until he leaves. But he never leaves. He just stands there, menacingly, staring you down no matter what you do. If you don't hold your breath for just the right amount of time with literally no sign as to how long that's supposed to be, you're fucked and you have to listen to bitch-ass Theo's cutscene again. This took me a stupid amount of time to achieve, and it's honestly the most unenjoyable part of this chapter. But what happens if you get to the control room? Well, you get the misfortune of playing the most brutal and unforgiving night section this series has ever designed. The goal is to stabilize 10 rooms in the facility, but while this is happening, you're getting fucked by George and Jolly. In this office is a window and a door, just like the first Jolly game. You will have to check the light, and if someone is there, close the door until they leave. But here's the catch, you have a power system, and a power system that goes down so incredibly quickly it isn't even funny. When I tell you that you have to play this night perfectly, I'm not exaggerating. Checking the light is a bad idea. Instead, you should listen for sound cues to let you know a character has arrived. When you hear the sound cue, you shouldn't close the door right away because it'll waste too much power. So wait about 3 seconds and then close the door. If you've timed it right, you should very quickly hear them leave. When they leave, you should quickly check the light and open the door. The reason you need to check the light now is because the sound of a character leaving can actually cancel out the sound of one arriving, which is complete bullshit by the way, and for every microsecond that you're not pressing the light button or the door button, you need to make damn sure you're stabilizing the rooms, because if you aren't for even a second, I promise that you will lose this night. I'm being so serious. You have to play this section perfectly. No mistakes, no misclicks. It is fucking brutal the whole fucking time. If you want to get a really good feel for how bad it is, you can check out my playthrough over on my second channel, Dexter Black. But if you can manage to complete this fucking brutal section of the game, we can continue. Walking through the corridors of the factory, we enter an elevator. Following it down, we reach a massive room. And inside, we find the supposedly deactivated Springtrap animatronic, and Jolly comes to a close. A plot twist is a literary technique that introduces a radical change in the direction or expected outcome of the plot in a work of fiction. Now tell me, can you think of a horror game that pulls off an insane twist? Maybe Resident Evil 8 in its crazy twist comes to mind. Now let me ask you another question. Can you name a FNAF game with a crazy twist? A twist so cool you have to sit back and think, wow, that was pretty sick. The game I'll be covering today has one of those twists, and I'm incredibly excited to share with you the amazing experience I had while playing Showman's The Awakening. For those of you already familiar with this game, you may know that it actually has a game that came before it. Kinda. Years ago, the same developer released a game called Phobia: The Awakening, using the Wiggles as inspiration for the characters. Well, turns out the dev wanted to remake their game using their own original characters to continue the story, so now here we are with Showman's. This may lead you to ask the question, if I've already played Phobia, is there even a point to playing Showman's? And trust me, this is a question I've asked myself. Originally, I saw people asking me to play Showman's. I played Phobia on my second channel, Dexter Black, not knowing at the time that Showman's was a thing, learning soon after the first episode went up that it was in fact a thing. So I questioned, does it even bother to play it? Well, recently I've made the decision to do exactly that and give Showman's a try. And let's just say, if you've played Phobia, play Showman's. It's everything Phobia is and more. So join me as we quake our asses into Showman's The Awakening. In Showman's, we play as a guy named Mark Ward, an employee of Showman's Pizza Place. And in night 1, we're introduced to 2 of the animatronics that will be trying to insert their fingers into orifices we'd really prefer they keep their grubby little hands away from. But before we can talk about them, we should talk about the tools at our disposal. Something really interesting you'll notice about the office is that you're able to look everywhere. Up, down, left, right, behind you, below you. It's actually really cool. It's really the first thing I noticed jumping into the game. The reason for this is actually because Showman's wasn't created in ClickTeam Fusion like most FNAF games are. Instead, it was created in Blender, which is what most FNAF games use to model their characters, and is something I also had no idea could be used to program a game. So that was pretty cool learning for the first time. Anyways, you'll see 2 large hallways on your left and right, which you can light up using buttons on your desk. In front of you is this lady. Hey, hottie. She's not hot, I'm not even gonna lie, she's not even bad. Who we'll be talking about later in the video. And if you look behind you, you'll be able to see the clock where you can tell how much longer of the night you have to get through. Oh yeah, and of course, there's cameras, because it really wouldn't be a FNAF game without those. With that out of the way, now we can talk about the first 2 threats this game introduces, Johnny and Harry. Now I know, those names aren't very normal sounding when thinking in terms of Five Nights at Freddy's, when usually we're having names so utterly stupid you'd be forced to think they were a fictional character. But no, these 2 are still robots, and you still cannot have intercourse with them, so please remove all thoughts of that nature from your head for the remainder of this video. Johnny and Harry both start from the show stage and do the exact same thing. Johnny will move through the cameras to your right hallway, and Harry will move through your left hallway, where they will then enter what I'm going to be calling their attack mode. During their attack mode, they have 5 phases. Each phase has a sound cue, and it's important that you're listening for them. With each phase, they'll move closer and closer towards your office, with the final phase having them walk up to you. Obviously, you can check their distance by flashing the light at them, and by doing so, you will also temporarily stun them in place. However, I would highly recommend you don't turn the lights on when they're in the hall, as I personally feel it's much more efficient to just let them attack you so they can piss off as fast as possible. Every time Johnny or Harry enters a new phase, their eyes will glow for a short time after their sound cue plays. So when you hear it, you can just turn in the direction to double check that they've moved. On these earlier nights, you really don't have to be super careful with them. Flashing lights and not counting sound cues isn't really important since they're your only threats. So I'll get into a bit of a better strategy for them later on. However, once they enter your office, you'll have to quickly throw on a spare mask to fool them into walking away, just like the animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And that's really it. Night 1 is pretty damn easy, really just introducing the basics needed to understand 2 very important mechanics. After beating Night 1, we see a cutscene, something that was not originally in Phobia. In it, we meet with the founder of Showman's, Jason Baker. He confirms with us that only Johnny and Harry were active on our shift, and we confirm. Apparently, this should not be happening, and it's a known issue. So that's good at least. Jason tells us that a previous employee mentioned more characters moving, which in all honesty doesn't bode well for my anus, given the fact we still have 5 more nights of this to deal with. But we get our things and go home for the night, only to come back to work in the morning. Night 2 introduces 2 new animatronics, and let me tell you, this is where the game starts to show how much of a pain in the dick it's about to become. The first character we should talk about is the fine shite sitting in front of us, Peggy. Peggy reminds me a lot of the scrapped animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator, just given the fact of the way she moves subtly like them. She also reminds me a lot of what Anissa's husband really doesn't want her to do to him. Whenever you're not looking at her, whether that be checking on the cameras, looking at the hallways, or checking the clock behind you, Peggy has a chance to advance phases. You'll be able to see her start by looking down and slowly transfer through the phases until she's ready to attack. In order to reset her, all you have to do is flip the breaker switch on your desk to shock her and she'll reset. But be careful not to just spam this lever over and over, because every time you shock her, she becomes more aggressive, leading to the end of nights becoming incredibly stressful due to how fast she'll be attacking you. Cap'n Cackle is the other menace introduced on Night 2. He is this game's Foxy. If you couldn't tell by looking at him, he's a pirate. just like Foxy. Also, he looks like he's cracked out of his fucking mind. Zooted to the fucking moon. Seriously, look at this geeked out motherfucker. Holy shit, bro hasn't slept in 18 days. Look at those eye bags. What the hell happened? Stop looking at me, dude. Tell me that guy doesn't smoke crystal meth. Look at those fucking eyes. What are you doing? Hey. That's the face I make when I'm about to eat ass, bro. Anyways, similar to Foxy, he'll have several phases on camera 6. Watching him will slow his progression and even in some cases make him go backwards. If he happens to leave camera 6, he doesn't do exactly what Foxy does. Instead, he'll just start moving through your cameras like any other character would, albeit very quickly. If you manage to stare at him in one of those other cameras, he will go back to camera 6 where you can continue oogling at him to make him stay put. Both Peggy and Cap and Cackle work very well together, and the same goes for Johnny and Harry. We have 2 other central characters left to introduce, and you'll notice that those 2 also work very well in tandem with one another. This is something I need to give this game praise for. It is so incredibly good at introducing new mechanics in a way that's stressful, yet engaging and fun. You introduce Peggy, a character that moves when you don't look at her, and Cap and Cackle, another character who moves when you're not looking at him. And because these 2 characters are in different places, it forces you to learn how to balance them together. God, it's so fucking cool. Similar to last night, this night also has a cutscene after completion. In it, we're seen walking to the exit of the building. We hear a noise and quickly turn around to see an unknown animatronic staring back at us. It stares for a while before turning around and walking away. This is a character we haven't yet seen. Even the characters we'll be talking about on later nights can be seen on the cameras all the time, but this one can't. Keep him in the back of your head as he'll become important later. For now, let's move on to Night 3. Night 3 only introduces one character, but it also introduces another incredibly important mechanic, that being your vents. The animatronic introduced on Night 3 is Tony the Chef. He will enter your vents. You'll notice on your cameras that you have 3 camera vents. Tony can enter 2 of them, those being either camera 12 or camera 11. In these vents, he will have multiple phases he will move through before attempting to enter your office. With each movement, a very quiet sound cue will play, a stark contrast to Phobia where the sound cue was very noticeable. By double-clicking on a vent cam, you can lock the vent. Locking a vent uses no power because the game has no power to begin with. Praise God. Once a vent is closed, you can keep it closed as long as you'd like, with no consequences. The only downside is that you can only close one vent at a time. So this night really isn't all too different from Night 2. Well, now's the time when I want to talk about sound cue counting with Johnny and Harry, as it's this night where you'll probably want to start getting used to doing that. As I mentioned earlier, Johnny and Harry each have 5 different phases in your hallway. The first is when they initially enter the hallway. You'll be able to tell because you can see their eyes in the hallway for a brief moment, and because you'll be able to hear their big ol' feet stomping around, kind of like I want Toy Chica to stomp on my testicles. Once one of them enters your hallway, you can stop checking on them and focus on listening. Start a mental count of 3 in your head. All sounds in this game are directional, so that really helps. Whenever you hear footsteps on either side of you, decrease that side's number by 1. Once the counter reaches 0, you know that the next time you hear footsteps from that side is when they'll walk into your office to attack. Okay, 4 left, or 3 till he's at the last stage. 2 left until he hits door. Okay, 1 more. And he's at the line. He's walking the thin line. 1 more. I want to see how close I can cut it. Hi. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for that. Doing this while they're both attacking you at the same time can get a little overwhelming, and on later nights they do like to attack together a lot. But if you can nail this counting strategy, they really shouldn't be too much of an issue. After completing Night 3, we get to watch another lovely cutscene. In it, we're looking through the factory for who the fuck knows what. We open a crate and find a Johnny plush inside. Seeing this toy seems to trigger some primal instinct in us, and we pass the fuck out. Honestly, bro, probably not the greatest place to lose consciousness, I'm not even gonna front. We awake in another room, only to look up and see Showman, Scared as shit, we wake up from our slumber only to realize it was a short dream we had after we had passed out. There is clearly something mentally wrong with our dear beloved Mark. We just have to figure out what it is. Night 4 introduces the man himself, Showman. Showman works in perfect tandem with Tony, also attacking your vents. Although, unlike Tony, Showman can only attack your camera 13 vent. However, he also fucking loves to do this at the same time that Tony is jumping penis first into your vents. Showman only has 3 phases in the vent before attacking, so notably faster than Tony. So while both of them are attacking your vent, you really have to be counting their positions to figure out whose vent you need to close first, because once again, you can only have one closed at a time. If one of those fuckers get into your office, they're gonna crank that soldier boy and clock you in the jaw. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on and hope to God. Okay, so it didn't work. I couldn't tell which one was closer, bro. I thought the guy I had blocked off was closer. I couldn't tell. All in all, each character is incredibly easy to deal with, but because of how perfectly they all work together, it can lead to an incredibly stressful experience trying to play against all of them at the same time. However, never at any point throughout my playthrough did I feel like this game was unfair or that RNG was too much of a factor. This game, dare I say it, might have borderline perfect video game balancing. After completing night 4, of course, we get another cutscene. This one taking place before we go to work for the night. Before we enter our car, we get a call from Jason, telling us not to come in to work tonight. He says things are getting too dangerous and that it would be unsafe for us to go through our shift. We agree to not go in tonight, except the plot twist is that I fucking lied and we're gonna go in anyways, because we hate authority like a 16-year-old white boy from the suburbs. On night 5, we get a call from the phone guy, and let me tell you, he is absolutely pissed that we decided to come in for the night. He explains that anything in that building that moves will be demolished in the morning. He tells us to do whatever it is we're trying to do and get out, because they're not going to send anyone into the building to get us out. Other than that, Night 5 is exactly what you'd think it is, just a much more difficult version of Night 4, really testing your reflexes and especially your nerve control. But on this night is when I have to bring up really the only problem I have with this game. Volume. This game is actually the loudest fucking game on planet Earth. Holy shit. Everything makes noise, and it makes a damn lot of it at that. There are typically ambient sounds in FNAF games, but for the love of God, this game plays intense music throughout most of the night, and it is loud as dick and balls. Want to hear the best part? As you get closer and closer to 6 a.m., the music adds more components and gets even fucking louder! This really doesn't help when so much of my strategy revolved around listening to sound cues. It's fucking crazy just how loud this game is! Now granted, was this something that was intended? Most definitely. And I'm not even saying that it's a bad thing, because obviously inherently it isn't. I was still able to beat the game just fine, and I feel like most other people would be able to beat it just fine as well. But this is something I couldn't not talk about. I love this game, but of course I'm not going to always be able to glaze everything I see, and I think this is truly the only flaw this game has. But hey, who gives a fuck about what I think? Let's move on to the cutscene, baby. Let me just say, I love this cutscene. I think everything about it is great. The pacing, the acting, everything is just so good that I don't want to ruin it by just talking about it. I'd much rather just show you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together for our birthday boy!
Just leave me alone.
Well, god damn. We really should have listened and not come back, huh? So, it's safe to say that our pal Mark really got fucked here. Something I think is actually really cool. It's fairly common for FNAF games to have a character die in them, most commonly a phone guy, but to actually see it like this is just awesome. Going into night 6, we actually get a cutscene before the night happens rather than after it. In it, we play as the phone guy going into the building to get Mark. After a bit of searching, we find him, and once again, I think it'll just sit much better with you if you just watch it for yourself.
Mark? Is that you?
You shouldn't have went in there, bro. You shouldn't have went in there, bro. You shouldn't have went in there, bro. You should have done that shit. Oh, fuck.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
What do I do? Keep yourself together.
Are you fucking me? That's right. Turns out Mark isn't dead, but is just kind of possessed. Phone guy, or his real name, Matthew, runs back to the office with Mark on the pursuit, and night 6 begins. Night 6 consists of 4 threats, 2 of which we've already covered, Cap and Cackle and Peggy. However, you'll immediately notice that they both look pretty fucked up. Why is this? Well, turns out by demolish the animatronics, they really meant set the whole fucking building on fire. Because once again, it wouldn't be a FNAF game without a fire, right? Oh yeah, and of course, they are way more aggressive. Another thing you'll notice immediately is that we're stuck with the flashlight instead of the building lights. And let me tell you, as I'm sure you can already see, it is dark as fucking shit in this goddamn building with no lights. Of course, your flashlight has power, so you'll have to use it sparingly. You'll need to use it to check the hallways and to even be able to see Peggy in front of you. This honestly adds a whole new level of fear to this game, mainly with Peggy. I never got very good at telling when she switched positions, and to now have it where I can't even naturally see her just added a whole new fear factor, and I love it. The other 2 threats are the animatronic we saw in the post-night 2 cutscene, dubbed The Figure, and Mark himself, which is honestly one of the coolest twists I've ever seen. Having the character you've been playing as the whole time flip like this, it's insane. It's honestly one of the coolest things I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. Let's start with Mark. Mark works the same as Harry and Johnny, except I feel like he's even easier. He can attack from either of the 2 halls, and unlike Johnny and Harry, you cannot see his eyes. He's also much, much quieter. The reason I think he's easier? Well, you don't have to do any mental counting to tell when he's going to attack, as he has a totally unique sound cue for when he enters your office. So as long as you've got fast reflexes, it's really just a game of waiting to hear the sound cue and putting on the mask. The final new threat on this night is, of course, the Figure. He takes the place of Tony and Showman attacking your vents. He can attack any of the 3 you have, since there won't be 2 characters going for the vents at the same time. Again, I honestly feel like this is easier than Tony and Showman. Of course, the Figure is fucking light speed fast when choosing and climbing through vents, so as long as you've got fast reflexes, it really shouldn't be too much of a challenge. Ironically enough, the main challenge I had with this night was not the 2 new threats, but the 2 returning threats, Peggy and Cap and Cackle. Again, these 2 have the best synergy out of any of the characters in this game, so bringing them back for night 6 was a no-brainer. Really, the actual problem for me was Peggy. The sheer speed at which she moves is enough to make you shit in your britches, and nearing the end of the night, she will be moving at a speed Usain Bolt would be creaming his pants over. But if you can control your nerves for long enough, you'll complete night 6 and move on to the post-night cutscene. Matthew runs as fast as he can to the exit, only to find it locked. Turning around, we see Mark slowly creeping up on us like the booty cheek creep freak. The screen cuts to black, and we're left with only the screams of Matthew echoing throughout the pizzeria, and Showman's The Awakening comes to a close. Kind of. We're not exactly done just yet. There's actually 6 other secrets this game has to offer, that being the secret tapes. On each night, you will be able to find one of these tapes and play them later. On night 1, if you check camera 9, you'll be able to see a tape on the shelf in the top left corner. Night 2's tape is located in one of the drawers in your office. Night 3's tape is located on camera 3 on a shelf in the bottom left corner. Night 4's tape is located on camera 2 at the top of the screen. Night 5's tape is located on camera 5 on a high shelf in the middle of the camera. And Night 6 tape is conveniently located directly in front of you on the desk. Hey there, post-scripting Deku here. Turns out I'm fucking wrong. These are not the locations of the tapes on every night. Turns out every single night, besides the 6th one, has a random location for each tape, each being on a different camera. This was just the order that I had. So, yeah. Sorry about that. These tapes, as I'm sure you could have guessed, go over some extra bits of lore to help us piece together the story. And this is the part of the video where I say, I'm very sorry guys, I'm terrible at talking about story, but I'm going to try my best here. Tape 1 shows all of the characters on stage singing the happy birthday song to a kid whose name isn't explicitly said. We can see by the date of the tape that this takes place in 1995. Tape 2 seems to be a sort of log from Jason, explaining his reasoning for why he believes the characters are acting so hostile. Originally, when they were first being built, they attempted to add an advanced facial recognition system that would allow the characters to actually see and think for themselves. Although the system never ended up working as intended, they wiped the idea from their systems. Well, guess what, fucker? Turns out they really didn't, and Jason seems to think that this is the reason the characters are acting the way they are. Jason makes a brief mention of an unnamed him and questions if one of his employees are potentially tampering with the characters. I'm guessing that him is referring to either Mark or the figure. Tape 3 shows 2 guys working on Tony. They're talking about how these robots should be scrapped because of how old they are, and then the guy in the back says a sentence that I literally cannot for the fucking life of me decipher. Like many other things in this game, the static that plays during these cutscenes is so fucking loud I can't hear anything except it. I'll play what he says here, and if any of you guys can decipher it, please let me know in the comments.
That company's been up in deals with recently. Why?
Tape 4 is one of my favorites. It really gives off the FNAF VHS style that I really like. A maintenance worker is running a test on Cap and Cackle. It doesn't quite go as planned as he bugs out, so they restart him and then get attacked. Afterwards, showing the lifeless corpse of the employee laying on the floor in front of Cap and Cackle. It's just such an unnerving moment to see this in person. Usually when it comes to FNAF games and death, you don't see it. So seeing it in a game like this is really unnerving, and it adds a sort of realism to the actual events that are taking place. Tape 5 is probably my favorite of all the tapes, being the most terrifying in my opinion. In it, we're in the perspective of what sounds like a young girl. Hiding under a table, we hear a scream from another room. Shortly after, Johnny walks into the room and starts to look around. The girl accidentally makes a noise, and when she looks back up, Johnny is staring at her, and he quickly goes for the kill. This is such a fucking horrific and terrifying situation to think about being in, and I think that's why I like it so much. Just imagining being in the same situation makes my hair stand. Tape number 6 is an odd one. We appear to be being spoken to by the figure. He tells us that the birthday we saw earlier was Timmy's 12th birthday. He had 2 of his friends with him that day, and it was a party made specifically for him. Then we see 3 drawings of his friends, all of them sad. The figure appears in front of us and slowly glances up before the tape ends. Again, as I've previously stated, lore analysis is not my strong suit at all, so I really can't even begin to imagine what anything here means. I know robots mad and robots kill, and I think that is neat enough. Overall, Showman's The Awakening is such a big step up from Phobia, And while I still do love that game, I think I love Showman's even more. Amazing graphical upgrades, fantastic cutscenes, and a gameplay loop that's so fun, difficult, yet still not frustrating. This game really has it all, and I truly think it's a fantastic game to play if you're at all interested in horror games. Even if you're not a huge Five Nights at Freddy's fan, I still think you should give it a try. Being overwhelmed, not necessarily something as we people look for in life. There are a lot of things people like to do that don't really make sense to me. Some people like to go cliff jumping or skydiving, something to give them an adrenaline rush, and while I myself would never do it, I can at least understand how that could be appealing. You want to know something nobody ever wants though? To be overwhelmed. This is the reason why a lot of max mode challenges can turn a lot of people off, and the same reason why I have no interest in trying out Hopeless Pursuit. For the love of God, please stop emailing me about Hopeless Pursuit, I'm not doing it. However, recently I found a FNAF game that is one of the most unique FNAF experiences I've ever played, except there was something very interesting about it. It has to be one of the most overwhelming Five Nights at Freddy's games I've ever played. This is probably going to be a long one, so sit back, relax, and let's talk about Next Week at Freddy's. Next Week at Freddy's takes FNAF 1 and completely reworks everything about it, adding several brand new mechanics to make your heart sink into your ass. And nothing explains this feeling better than when you load into the office and turn around for the first time. Oh, whoa. Whoa, oh. 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 Fuck. This is the control panel, your main mode of defense throughout this game. If this looks like a lot, that's because it is. Here's a fun fact. I actually went to play this game around 4 months ago, but after seeing this monstrosity behind me, I actually ended my recording and chose a different game to play because of how ridiculous it looked. This control panel is intimidating. There are so many switches, levers, and panels on this thing. I wouldn't blame you if you decided just from glancing at this that this game wasn't for you. To really understand just how much shit goes on in this game and how much you'll have to learn, this game actually gives you a tutorial night where you can mess around with everything in the building for as long as you want, because just throwing you into the game would 100% be too overwhelming. Next Week at Freddy's doesn't have any phone calls, nobody to help you and to explain to you what to do. Except there kind of is. This is Comcat. Get used to seeing him a lot. His first major role is in the tutorial night, where he will teach you how to use the computers and teach you the mechanics of each important camera in the game, which, by the way, there is a fuck ton of them. So strap in and get ready because it's about to get insane. I'll explain the important mechanics as they become relevant, so let's start with how Comcat works, because yes, of course, he himself acts as a threat. While Comcat himself can't kill you, he can be the most annoying character on the face of the earth when he wants to be. You can click on his icon on your taskbar to make him appear. There are a few phrases he will say when you do this, and occasionally a phrase will prompt you to respond to it. While you're talking with Comcat, you won't be able to interact with anything else on the computer. This includes your cameras, but to be honest, everything else on the computer isn't useful from a gameplay standpoint. If you don't periodically check on Comcat this way, he will take speaking with you into his own hands and appear on the screen whenever he wants. He's pretty much just Bonzi Buddy, except he doesn't steal your private data. When Comcat chooses to appear on his own, the conversation you'll have with him will be much longer than if you initiated the conversation yourself. And since you can't control anything until Comcat leaves, it's in your best interest to occasionally check up on him. 2 characters become active on night 1, Bonnie and Chica. But before we talk about their mechanics, I want to take a moment to really appreciate how amazing this game looks. Every little detail looks incredible, especially the animatronics. If you look very closely, you'll be able to see the fuzz from the fabric on the robots. It's honestly some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. So much attention to detail, it's incredible. But now we can talk about how Bonnie and Chica work. And trust me, these guys do way more than what they do in the official games. Like, take every mechanic that each of them does from every official game and merge them together, and I bet you that they will still do more in this game. I told you it was overwhelming, so let's get into it. Let's start with Bonnie, since he's usually the baseline, basic FNAF character. the character that should be simple to understand and should pave the way for more interesting mechanics to form off of it in later animatronics. How much could he possibly do? Well, a fuck ton. Like, a shitload. Bonnie's a whole fucking FNAF game by himself, I can't even lie. Bonnie starts on stage. You might be wondering why I'm not just saying what I usually say. Oh, he walks around the building and eventually makes his way to your office. Well, because he's not that simple this time around. So tracking his movements is actually important. Bonnie has 4 possible attack methods. I'm sorry. 4? That's the most insane thing I've ever heard of. And Bonnie is supposed to be the simplest character? I'm mortified of what is yet to come. Well, calm down, buddy. Let's go over each possible route that Bonnie can take, starting with the most basic one, heading to your office. This one is simple. Bonnie will walk to your office, appear in your window for a while, and eventually walk into the doorway where you can really see how fucking hulkingly terrifying these robots are. I know that FNAF 1 animatronics are like 6'9" or something like that canonically, but no FNAF game has really shown that off in a way that is meaningful. Seeing the animatronics in the doors in this game is actually kind of scary. Obviously, just close the door and you'll be a-okay. However, do keep in mind that the animatronics in this game like to sit at the door for approximately 12 years, so that's fun. Bonnie's next means of making your life miserable is through attacking the compressor room. What the fuck is the compressor room? Well, now is the time we get to start talking about the control panel, and where this game really starts to become an overwhelming headache. The compressor is a large machine inside of the building. The compressor is what allows the doors all throughout the building to be closed, because as I'm sure you could have guessed, it compresses the air that allows the pistons of the door to work properly. I think. I don't know, I'm not an engineer. If any engineers are watching, explain how wrong I am about compression and pistons or whatever the fuck in the comments. Thanks. Bonnie will try to enter this compressor room through the hallway camera right before your office. You will have to use the control panel behind you to remotely close off the door to the compressor room before Bonnie gets the chance to enter. However, it's moments like these where I need to bring up an issue I was never able to figure out myself. Since this game is made in a 3D environment, unlike the Click Team FNAF games, it gives a lot more room for the characters to move around. So it's very common that you'll be able to see characters in multiple places on the same camera. When it comes to doors like the compressor room, telling exactly where the animatronic's next move is going to be is borderline impossible. Sometimes it's obvious and the character will be standing right next to the door facing it. However, sometimes they'll be miles upon miles away from the fucking door, yet still have their next movement opportunity be into said door.
You're not near the door, you're fine. Oh, Chica, you dick.
So this leads to you closing doors whenever you see a character on the camera, which a lot of the times the character was never going to enter in the first place, therefore just wasting a fuck ton of power for no reason. If Bonnie manages to get into the compressor room, he'll slap his fat crack all over it and break it, which will require you to reboot your compressor. With your compressor off, you obviously won't be able to shut any of the doors throughout the building. This includes the doors you can close on the cameras. Bonnie's next attack strategy is the camera connections in the server room. This works exactly the same as the compressor room in theory. You can close the door to the server room when an animatronic is close, using the control panel behind you. If Bonnie manages to get inside the server room, he'll drop his big fat stupid balls all over the control panel and fuck up your camera connections, making you unable to see any of the cameras. You will then have to manually reboot them, which along with the compressor reboot takes a very long time. However, I'd argue that not being able to see your cameras affects the gameplay loop a lot more often. Where a lot of FNAF games fail to make the cameras super useful, Next Week at Freddy's succeeds greatly at making the cameras more important than any other tool at your disposal. The final attack strategy that Bonnie can have is activating Foxy, which brings up Foxy altogether. There are actually 2 different versions of Foxy in this game, the normal one and the scrapped one in the back room. We'll talk about the back room one later. For now, let's focus on the main Foxy. By himself, Foxy is incapable of doing anything and will never attack you, only through the assistance of Bonnie and 2 other animatronics that can activate him. Bonnie has the chance to enter Pirate's Cove and attempt to activate Foxy. Once Bonnie enters, you won't have a super long time to stop him before Foxy comes for that ass.
Whoa, no. Fucking dick! My whole asshole just fell off. It did, just dropped right out. Just dropped, just plop, just fell right out. Fell right out of my ass.
Using the special flashlight on the Pirate's Cove camera, you can scare away any unwanted animatronics. However, using this light does temporarily cause higher power usage from everything that uses power. For what reason? I have no fucking idea. I guess God just hates me. If you don't scare Bonnie away fast enough, Foxy will activate and run to your door. If you don't close it fast enough, he'll place his hook into your rectum, and I'm sure you can imagine how unpleasant that would be. If you do close the door on time, just like FNAF 1, he'll take away some of your power. Except unlike FNAF 1, the max he can take isn't 6, instead being like fucking 15% power just disappears out of existence. So really make sure you're watching that Pirate's Cove camera. Whew. There, a couple of pages into the script, and I'm finally done talking about the very first character in this game. Isn't that awesome? Now it's time to talk about Chica. Chica also has 4 different ways to attack you. Isn't that just fucking awesome? Luckily for us, 3 of the mechanics are identical to Bonnie. Obviously, Chica can attack your right door. She can also try to fuck up your cameras using the server room, and she's one of the other characters that will attempt to activate Foxy. However, I have noticed that it seems like Bonnie will attempt to a lot more frequently. However, that may also just be because Bonnie's AI value is typically always higher than Chica's is. The new mechanic that Chica adds is pretty similar to Bonnie's compressor attack, except Chica will attempt to attack your power grid. When you see her near the power grid door, you can obviously close it using the control panel behind you. If she manages to get into the power grid room, she will literally just shut off the power to the entire building, and you'll have to reboot it, which takes quite a long time. The power being turned off is undoubtedly the most dreadful situation you can be in. Not only does it require you to wait a billion years for your power to turn back on, but the power being turned off also turns off the compressor, meaning that after you wait forever for the power to turn back on, you then have to wait forever again for the compressor to turn back on. And on top of that, at the start of each night, you have to boot up the cameras, which takes time in and of itself. So of course, when the power is cut, you'll have to reboot the computer as well. Oh yeah, and don't forget to be checking on Comcat frequently or he'll waste even more of your time. Geez, Dexter, this sounds pretty complicated, and we haven't even introduced everyone yet? Exactly. We still have a lot more to talk about. But if you want to feel a little bit better, the lower the character's AI, the less likely they are to make the most effective choices, meaning that on night 1, most of the movement will be Bonnie and Chica trying to disable your cameras. I personally didn't have them come to my doors on night 1 at all. Night 2 doesn't add anything new, it just increases the AI of Bonnie and Chica, so chances are you're going to be seeing at least one of them at your door on this night. However, I will be taking this time to talk about what I feel is this game's biggest flaw: time. The nights in this game are long as fuck. I'm talking super fucking long. However long you think they are, they're longer. Most typical FNAF games now will have a real-life second equal 1 in-game minute, meaning that most nights in FNAF games are 6 minutes long. I feel this is a good length for a night, just dividing the in-world night time in minutes by 10. However, Next Week at Freddy's thought it'd be really funny and a little bit quirky to make each in-game minute 2 seconds in real life, meaning that each night in Next Week at Freddy's is a whopping 12 fucking minutes long. Are we serious? I guess I get it. The animatronics move pretty slowly to give you time to properly search for them on the cameras. But 12 minutes? I think I'd rather swallow a grenade and die, thank you. Like, I still beat the whole game. But god damn, losing when you're 11 minutes into a night will really make you question how violent of a person you actually are. Now, something interesting happens after beating night 2. We get thrown into what this game calls nightmare segments. Think of them like this game's version of a post-night minigame, except this time there's actually way more to do and it isn't mind-numbingly boring. Well, okay, the first one is. During this nightmare segment, we wake up in the back room of the restaurant. Is this actually happening or is this a nightmare? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm leaning more towards it being a nightmare just because of the name of the segment. We wake up on the floor and notice that the door is closed and we're stuck inside. We say that someone will surely come to find us, and without even standing up, the nightmare ends. Again, I told you the first one was boring, but they will only get more and more interesting from here, trust me. Moving on to night 3, once again, nothing new is added. The AI of Bonnie and Chica are just increased. But you really have to think, with how many different ways each of them can attack you, and how overwhelming the game's system as a whole is, this is still enough to make each night feel significantly more difficult than the last. Moving on to the second nightmare segment, we're finally able to stand up and really get a good look at our surroundings. The room is very small and very cramped, which would give any normal person a feeling of claustrophobia. We pick up a flashlight that barely does a goddamn thing and start to explore for an exit. It's at this point where I notice that these nightmare sections would be my least favorite part of the game because of the horrendous mix of both motion blur and horrific head bobbing. But that's really besides the point. We eventually notice a door and recognize that it's just like the one in the office. However, the lever that controls the door is missing. We find it on a desk, but before we can attach it to escape, a throbbing pain comes to our head and we pass out. Night 4 is where we get to talk about the new and final threat this game has to offer. But don't let that fool you, because this threat is a big one. A big stinker. A poopy head for all of you elementary schoolers out there who really shouldn't be watching my channel. Night 4 introduces Freddy, and let me tell you, he's got all the tricks up his sleeve, and he's ready to flatten you like a pancake and fold you like an omelet. Freddy can literally do everything, and he moves faster than the other animatronics, so needless to say, he's going to be the one that grabs a clump of your rump and doesn't let go like a snapping turtle. Not only can Freddy take all 4 of the paths that Bonnie and Chica can take, those being fucking the compressor room, activating Foxy, killing the power, and disconnecting your cameras, he can also attack either of your doors, and there's also something else unique to him that he can do. Remember how I told you that there are 2 Foxies in this game? Yeah, Freddy fucks around with the other one. Scrapped Foxy is present in the back room. The only other character who will enter this room is Freddy. And be careful, because sometimes seeing Freddy on this camera can be pretty difficult, as he has the habit of hiding in the shadows. When you see Freddy in the back room, shut the door to Scrapped Foxy's room using the control panel behind you. If Freddy manages to get inside, he will send Scrapped Foxy to your office. However, unlike normal Foxy, Scrapped Foxy can attack either of your doors. I personally have no idea how much power he takes away when he pounds on your door, as I'm a fucking god gamer and never had to deal with him. It is a mistake I will not make again. Uh-oh. Okay, let's talk about this. I had that fucking door closed when Freddy was in there. Which, by the way, you can see my epic FNAF skills on my second channel, Dexter Black. But once Scrapped Foxy pounds on your door, he'll break in the hallway where he won't reactivate for the rest of the night. And from here, nothing else actually gets added to the night sections. Each night just gets more and more difficult. Now sure, there aren't a lot of threats that can happen at the same time, but the reason why this game is so overwhelming is because of how much you have to remember. You have to know where all the characters are. You have to understand how each mechanic works, and you have to be able to control your nerves during all of this for 12 minutes straight and barely pass each night due to almost running out of power because these animatronics camp more than a fat Call of Duty player.
Oh, hi, Chica. My luck is gargantuan right now.
Moving on to the third nightmare segment, this game really shows how much of a dickhead it can really be. We wake back up and are finally able to put the lever on the door, only to find out that the door isn't even getting power, which doesn't make sense because we know from the night sections that if there's no power, the door opens, but what the fuck ever, I'm pretty sure this is literally just a nightmare. Turning around, we notice that the once cramped room is now larger, as a wall that was previously present has disappeared, now leading into a large storage area. With our worthless flashlight in hand, we venture into the dark room, following a wire on the ceiling that will hopefully lead to something to turn the power on. After some wandering, we find a breaker box, but it's locked and we're unable to get into it. We figure a key must be around the maze of a storage area somewhere, so we set out to find it. Guys, I hated this section so fucking much. I mentioned earlier I have motion sickness, and this gameplay is some of the most nauseating shit I've ever seen in my life. During my playthrough, which you can watch over on my second channel, Dexter Black, I spent a pretty decent amount of time looking for this key, and I couldn't find it. With my head pounding and really just wanting to wrap up the video, I looked up a walkthrough just to see where it was. I went to the location where the guy in the walkthrough found it, shout out to Indie Fuel by the way, only to find that the key wasn't there. The key spawns in a random location, so you can't look up where it is. I now had to spend who the fuck knows how long wandering around with the feeling that my head was about to implode looking for a key the size of your ball sack. However, eventually I did find it and I used it to unlock the breaker, only to find out that all we unlocked was another fucking lock. God damn it! Are you serious? This is not a thing that has ever existed. Now we have to find a 4-digit code in this fucking hellhole. This is by far the worst nightmare segment in the entire game. It is ruthless. At first I thought, oh, let's just try the classics. You know, 1987, 1983, but nothing worked. So I assumed that I had to go find the numbers somewhere. I checked the walkthrough, and of course, the code is randomized. Amazing. After once again, who fucking knows how long, I wander back to the breaker only for the game to then tell me that I should listen for clicks on the correct numbers. Are you fucking me right now? Why did you not tell me that when I was guessing codes before? Why did you wait so fucking long to come up with that? This game hates me. This game is pulling my hair and just plowing the shit out of me like I'm a dirty little slut. But whatever, we input the code and flip the breaker switch. And as we're walking back to the door to try and open it, we once again pass out. I guess that's what happened when you're just fucked for hours upon hours at a time. You get so tired you just pass out. Fantastic. As I've said, Night 5 doesn't add anything new, so we can just jump right back into the hellhole that is these nightmare segments, where the same 15-second ambience loops forever right in my fucking ear when I already have a goddamn headache. Once again, we wake up and walk back to the door to see if we can open it. We flip the switch, and for fuck's sake, something's wrong with the compressor, so we have to go try and find something else. Now, I'm not sure if this next part was just a me thing, so for anyone else who has played this game, let me know if this next part happened to you. We're told literally nothing of importance. The only thing our character states is something along the lines of, "What am I going to do now?" And that's all we're left with. So my first thought is something along the lines of, oh, I just need to look for another who the fuck knows what. So I did just that. I wandered around the storage area looking for something I hadn't seen before. Who can even say how long I was wandering around before I eventually found what I was supposed to find? Directly next to the original room that we were in at the beginning of the nightmare segments, another wall miraculously disappeared, and that's where we were supposed to go. That wouldn't even be a huge problem if I could fucking see anything at all, but it's so fucking dark. I can't see my hands. It's so dark I can't even think, which I know doesn't make sense, but fuck it, here we are. Entering this new room, we see a bunch of pipes on the wall. We know the power is on, but figure that there's a generator somewhere that hasn't been turned on, because it wouldn't be a horror game if you didn't have to turn on a generator at some point, now would it? After wandering down a hallway that probably took me 20 minutes to find because I couldn't see a fucking thing, we stumble into the room where the generator is. We power it on and promptly pass out once more because of how loud it is. I'm sure you could guess, nothing new of note in Night 6, just really fucking hard. In the final nightmare segment, we wake up once more. We walk back to the pipes only to find that a bunch of gas, or air, whatever the fuck, is leaking out of them. So we have to find something to close the valves, which means I get to play another game of walk around aimlessly with a headache looking for a randomly generated tiny object when I can't see a fucking thing. After a long time searching, we find a valve. We then have to take the valve back over to the pipes and figure out which of the billion of them to close off. At first I thought, let's follow the pipe that leads to the door we're trying to open. So after following the completely unconventional and nonsensical twists and turns of the pipes, I found the one that went to the door. Placing the valve in that pipe, I tightened it and it caused the valve to shoot out at Mach 1000 and land who the fuck knows where. So you know what we get to do now? Play another game of walk around aimlessly with a headache looking for a randomly generated tiny object when I can't see a fucking thing. After finding it lying on the fucking ground, I decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna brute force this one. And to my luck, the pipe I chose to put the valve in next just so happened to be the correct one, thank God. Finally, we head back over to the door and try to open it one final time, and finally it opens. We see a newspaper with some audio from a newscast playing in the background, explaining that an employee at Freddy Fazbear's burned down the building after reporting that the animatronic stalked him during the night. This employee is who I can only assume to be us. We were placed into a psychiatric hospital because everyone just assumed we were cuckoo bananas. We also find out that the owner of the restaurant, who in this game is called Jacob Fazler, retarded name, I should mention, has been arrested for killing several children, probably in reference to the typical FNAF missing children's incident. And of course, the co-owner, Marcus Reed, killed his daughter. Why did this game choose to give them different names instead of calling them William and Henry? I'm not totally sure. But with that, the main game of Next Week at Freddy's comes to a close. But this game's lore goes a lot deeper than what we've seen. I mean, seriously, the backstory of this game takes up an overwhelming majority of this game's own Wikipedia page. Throughout this game, you're able to look through the files on the computer while also doing things like checking the cameras. It's through these files where you can learn the most overwhelming bullshit you've ever been up against in your entire life. Alright, so let's break down the absolute shit show that is this game's retelling of the original FNAF lore. As I understand it, and with significant help from the wonderful writing of City, the creator of the FNAF fan game wiki. Seriously, I couldn't do this shit without you. No idea how you had it in you to write all this, but here's my shitty retelling. Next Week at Freddy's kicks off with Jacob Fazler and Marcus Reed, the two guys behind Fazbear Enterprises. They started cooking up the idea in the late 80s, and by October of 1989, they have brought the building that would become Freddy Fazbear's Pizza family restaurant. Jacob even logs all of his progress on the same computer in the office you used during the game, talking about buying the stage, wiring the rooms, and bragging about getting pneumotronics to build the animatronics. He also casts the voices: Adam Burton as Freddy, Rick Ellis as Foxy, and Davey and Suzanne Paul for Bonnie and Chica. By 1990, the place is open, business is booming, Jacob marries Nancy, she helps out in the studio, and soon they're running 3 locations. Everything looks fine, but Marcus slowly drifts away from the company, skipping meetings and distancing himself. In 1995, Jacob installs the infamous control panel in the office. You know, the fucking NASA dashboard of switches that's basically the whole reason this game is overwhelming in the first place. Then, life falls apart. Nancy dies, and that's never explained, and Jacob is left raising their daughter Lara on his own. Lara grows up around the restaurant but loses interest in it, and Marcus cashes out of the company entirely. Jump to 1999. Jacob gets a shiny $12 million offer from Sunbird Hotel Corporation to expand, and for the first time in years, he's motivated again. But in 2001, Marcus storms back demanding his old share. Jacob tells him, "Too bad, fucker, the deal's already done," and Marcus has a meltdown. He's literally dragged out by Adam Burton, Freddy's voice actor, and Marcus files a lawsuit, but the outcome is never revealed. And then tragedy hits. In June 2001, Lara is found dead in the storage room of Freddy's. 3 days later, Sunbird pulls their deal. Jacob's later logs get darker. He writes about hearing Lara's cries and feeling like she's watching him, angry. By 2002, he admits he's, quote, made a mistake. That mistake? Involvement in the deaths of 3 children. Not long after, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica start moving in disturbingly lifelike ways, which, yeah, the model viewer pretty much confirms are the spirits of those 3 kids. Meanwhile, the employee chat logs on that same office computer show the slow collapse of the place. Staff complain about the animatronics walking around on their own, about creepy suits left lying around, about Jacob drinking and acting strange after Lara's death. Scrap Foxy briefly gets mentioned as this janky earlier version of Foxy. There's even a memo from Jacob banning guest mode after a balloon incident, and literally bolting the animatronics to the stage to avoid lawsuits. And as far as I'm aware, that's all Next Week at Freddy's has to offer. Overall, I think it's one of the most creative FNAF games ever designed from a gameplay standpoint. The game looks gorgeous, it functions really well, and it found a way to make literally every single mechanic useful, which is something a lot of FNAF games just don't seem to be able to do. I would highly recommend you play this game and give it a try. You will not regret it. Those Nights at Rachel's. That is the game we'll be talking about today. Am I excited to talk about this? Originally, yes, I was. It's a classic, and surprisingly, a classic I had actually never seen before. Made by Nixon, also known for this little FNAF game. I'm not totally sure if you've heard of it. It's kind of a little bit under the radar, you know, kind of a little bit underground, you could say, called The Joy of Creation. I was pretty excited to see what this game had in store for me, and then I played it. And after playing it, I can say I honestly thought there would be more to talk about. Expect a shorter video today, because when I tell you that this game is literally a bunch of nothing, I'm not lying. Strap in and get ready to dive into the very small world of Those Nights at Rachel's. Those Nights at Rachel's takes place in a restaurant called Doug's and Rachel's. We play as a newly hired night guard. I'm sure you would have never been able to figure that out. Yes, in fact, we do surprisingly play as a security guard in this Five Nights at Freddy's game. I know that's pretty out of the norm for a FNAF game, but hey, Those Nights at Rachel's was really trying to reinvent the wheel here, break the mold. Let's jump into the first night this game has to offer and really start going over a few of the major flaws I noticed. To start, the office is massive. We've got 2 big doors, pretty standard, and we've got 2 monitors, one for your cameras and the other for your door buttons, and a display which shows how much power you have remaining. Finally, there's a spare room off to the side that has some curtains, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But to start, I want to talk about what I personally feel is this game's biggest flaw. The majority of the things in Those Nights at Rachel's are redundant or not useful at all. I could explain every single reason right now, but I think it would be better to explain these problems as they become relevant naturally throughout the game. To start, let's talk about how the door monitor is actually useless completely. Now, you might be thinking, how could the monitor that allows you to close the door be useless? That's like literally the main mode of defense in a lot of FNAF games. Well, here's where we get to talk about something really cool, and something in retrospect I'm not a huge fan of in FNAF games. Keybinds. Keybinds in most games serve to make the experience more comfortable for the user, and in a lot of cases, even in FNAF games, they can be used properly and work effectively. For example, Rachel's uses keybinds in a very good way, that being movement. While playing Those Nights at Rachel's, you'll see several arrows, and it may even look a bit overwhelming. Clicking these arrows will transport you around the office, whether that be turning, traveling to another room, peeking around a corner, or hiding under your desk. Ignoring the fact that these arrows are always present, which could lead to confusion as to when certain actions can be performed, with all of these buttons on screen and the fact we're in a 3D environment, adding keybinds for movement was a very smart idea, as you can use WASD to turn and move and E to peek around corners. This is a very good example of keybind integration into a FNAF game. Now it's time to talk about a very poor integration of the keybinding. Using the Z and X keys, you can shut the 2 doors in your office. Now, I want to be very clear that mechanic by itself is not inherently a bad thing. Binding doors to a key on the keyboard can work. I think it worked well in a game like Ultimate Custom Night. However, here's the big difference between Ultimate Custom Night and Those Nights at Rachel's. UCM keybinds work not only because a large focus of the game's mechanics centralize around keybinds, actively making keybinding a mechanic of the game itself, but without keybinds, the game would probably be completely impossible. While yes, a lot of the things could be controlled solely by your mouse in UCM, it's also not possible to do multiple things at once with your mouse like is required by UCM. So in that case, I think keybinding works and is good. Those Nights at Rachel's uses keybinding in a way that makes an otherwise interesting mechanic completely useless. You will never have to look at the second monitor in your office throughout your entire playthrough. Adding keybinds to the doors has made it useless, and that's what I mean. And that's the pattern you're going to notice as we continue to talk about the game. Mechanics making other mechanics useless. This is, in my opinion, the prime example of this in Rachel's. But we'll talk about a few more as we go on. On night 1, we get a phone call from a teenager who sounds like he's about to neck himself.
Hello and welcome to your new job at Doug's and Rachel's.
Before transferring us to a live call with the manager of the establishment.
Hello? Hello? Are you there?
At first, that might sound cool. Popco's did a somewhat similar mechanic where you could interact with the phone guy by asking a question at the end of the call. Rachel's doesn't do that, it just acts as a normal phone call, but that's really nitpicky. We're told the basics of how the nights are going to play out. We're told point blank that the animatronics move around and that we will need to close the doors to defend ourselves, something that isn't typically seen in FNAF games. Transparency? That's nuts. Except not really, because after almost letting out the words saved my life, the phone guy chooses instead to say saved my job. So, I mean, not completely transparent, but I guess that's progress. It's also during this phone call where we learn that recently a newer restaurant has been destroying the reputation of Rachel's, that restaurant being Freddy Fazbear's. Now, here's an interesting question. What could have possibly happened at Freddy's that would have made another establishment with robots look bad? Oh yeah, maybe death. Yeah, that'd do the job. I would love to keep talking about the night one phone call, but there's this really funny and quirky moment that happens during it. Something about Rachel's is that the nights are really short. So, and I'm not kidding, the phone call is literally cut short in the middle of a sentence because the night ends.
Sanitary and rude, but customers are customers. We don't need them.
Is this guy gonna shut the fuck up?
Hello and welcome to your new job at Doug's and Rachel's. We have the best animatronics and food available at the
What?
lowest prices.
What the fuck?
Straight up guaranteed. Since this is your first night at the job.
Okay. I guess that's night one. What can I say? This is absolute peak cinema, and I've never seen anything better before in my life. But enough about the boring shit. What about what actually happens during the night? Well, if you were hoping for anything at all, put that thought away because literally nothing happens at all. And it's not even for a lore interesting way like FNAF 3, where nothing happens on night 1 because Springtrap isn't even in the building yet. No, animatronics move on night 1 in those nights at Rachel's, but they just never make it to your office, something that I promise you will be a common trend throughout your playthrough. But let's talk about the animatronics that activate on night 1. Literally every single fucking one aside from 2. Now relax. That may sound intimidating, but keep in mind I said you will never get attacked on this night. The only 2 characters that aren't active are Pete and Bane. However, I'm not going to explain the mechanics of each character that is active on this night right now to save you all from blowing your brains out. Instead, I'll just introduce characters as I talk about the nights and space them out a bit. Let's talk about the 2 characters you'll probably see the most, Rachel and Doug, the 2 faces of the restaurant. I really want to start by talking about Doug, since you will really be seeing him a lot. And I do want to preface that a lot is subjective for this game, since, no fucking joke, I probably had an animatronic reach my office less than 10 times throughout my entire playthrough. That's how much fucking nothing happens during this game, by the way. Doug does what you think a first active animatronic would do. Wanders around the building and eventually makes it to your office. If he gets to your door, you can check by peeking around the corner and flashing your flashlight, which I will admit does look pretty cool. And I think that having to peek him like a game of Valorant is actually a really interesting idea. Too bad I only got to do it about 4 fucking times. Obviously, just close the door and he leaves. Now we can talk about Rachel, except no we can't because she's literally just Doug. She does the exact same thing with no difference. I'm so happy I'm alive. I'm actually pretty sure that throughout my entire playthrough, never once was I attacked by Rachel. You know, the main fucking character in the game. I never saw her aside from in the cameras. Oh, and speaking of the cameras, they are a whole nother issue in and of themselves. They're worthless. Kind of, pretty much. Now, to be fair, I'm aware this game was made really early on in terms of FNAF fan games. So to a degree, you can excuse mechanics not being perfect. But even in the original game, the cameras had a use. Now, I want to make it clear that yes, technically they aren't completely useless. With how infrequently the characters seem to move, it might as well be useless. So let's talk about this game's camera forcer, this game's Foxy, Ray the Raccoon. Ray, quite literally, is just Foxy. Starts on one camera, has multiple different phases he'll move through before charging at your office and killing you. The way to stop him is easy. Just look at the cameras. I'm not sure if he cares about you watching him specifically or just checking if you're on the cameras in general, but it honestly doesn't matter which one it is because he's the only character on the cameras that even matters, so you should probably just have your camera on him all the time anyways. Dexter, you literally just explained how the cameras aren't worthless, yet you still called them worthless. Why? Why did you do that? That doesn't make sense. It really sounds like you're just being negative for the sake of being negative. While I personally never once saw Ray attack throughout the entirety of my playthrough, you do not have to check on Ray very frequently. Yes, if you never open the cameras, he will more than likely attack you, but even if you just check the camera once every 30 seconds, he's not gonna get you. I don't think looking at the camera for 1 second every 30 seconds is making use of the cameras. A game you could easily compare this to is Five Nights at Freddy's 1, a game that has you do pretty much the same thing, really just opening the cameras without doing much of anything on them. And while I agree that the cameras in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 are generally useless, there's at least a few useful mechanics that can come from them. For example, we all know that your right door camera is really the only camera that matters, with the occasional check to Foxy to see what phase he's on. You could argue that having to look at 2 cameras rather than just one, like in Rachel's, already makes FNAF 1's camera system more useful, but I feel like that might be grasping at straws a bit. There is one other mechanic that the cameras have that can actually be pretty useful in a small handful of situations, that being forcing Foxy to attack faster using the right hall cam. When Foxy leaves Pirate's Cove, there's a range of time it will take for him to be at your right door. However, you can force the attack to happen sooner by checking the right hall camera, which can be nice if, for example, Bonnie is already at your door and you want to get the Foxy attack out of the way during that time, something I like to take advantage of during stressful modes like 420. I have to be transparent for a moment and mention that there very well might be a mechanic like the right hall mechanic in Rachel's. However, like I've already stated, I've never got attacked by Ray in my playthrough, so I never really got the chance to check, and the wiki doesn't explicitly mention anything like that either, so if it does exist, I walk back my criticism. However, something that you can't neglect is just that. I never got attacked. The cameras are somewhat useful in FNAF 1 because you can do something and you will be attacked by your camera animatronic. There is no FNAF playthrough where you're not attacked by Foxy. There are playthroughs where you're not attacked by Ray, and that's where the real issue actually lies. Anyways, let's move on to Night 2, which introduces Pete and the Thing. Let's start with Pete. He's Doug, except he goes to your other door. However, this does bring up another mechanic that would be interesting if it was actually ever useful: hiding under your desk. Only one door in your office can be closed at a time, so what happens if 2 animatronics attack your doors at the same time? Well, first of all, that's never gonna happen, you don't get attacked frequently enough, but even if it did, that's where hiding under the desk becomes important. If 2 animatronics are at your doors, you close one of them and hide under the desk until the other leaves. But now hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. If hiding under the desk can make the animatronics at your doors go away, do you even need to close the doors in the first place? Well, to my understanding, no. You don't need to close the doors for the door animatronics. You can always just choose to hide under the desk. Excuse me? You've just made an already semi-useless mechanic even more useless by designing another mechanic that solves the same problem without using up power. So the only time you actually ever need to close the door is when Ray is coming to your office, but we've already established that Ray is probably never going to attack you. So you literally never have to close the doors in a FNAF game. What? Okay, so that's pretty stupid. What about the other character on this night? The Thing. Maybe he'll be interesting. No. Hate to break it to you, but the answer is no. The Thing attacks from the curtain room. Throughout the night, the curtains will slowly open. If they open all the way, the Thing will come out and kill you no matter what, since not even hiding will be able to save you, and there's no door to the room he comes from. So every once in a while, you'll have to run to the other room and close the curtains. How frequently do you have to do this? Well, on Night 2, doing it once every hour will be enough, but with the lack of movement speed from any of the characters, even on the hardest nights in this game, you will have more than enough time to go over to the curtain and close it. You know it's sad when what I just explained to you is the most difficult threat in the entire game. Throughout the phone calls so far, it's been made clear that the goal of ours and the phone guy is to get a promotion, and the Night 3 phone call continues that narrative. The phone guy mentions that the owner of the establishment has gone missing, and that the only reason that bothers him is that nobody can get a promotion unless he's present. So that's obviously concerning for that reason. It's revealed that the owner doesn't want to be tied to the establishment anymore, and I find that a bit weird. I get that Freddy has had a shady past, but from what I understand so far, this place doesn't, at least not directly. That's really all that's important from the phone call, so we can talk about some of the new threats on this night. Let's start with Bane. Fun fact, it's just Pete with a costume on. He does the exact same thing. Also, want to hear something crazy about night 3? From this point forward, it is literally impossible for Rachel to reach your office for the rest of the game. Which means she was only ever able to reach your office on nights 1 and 2. But the craziest part? The chances of her ever reaching your office on nights 1 and 2 are borderline impossible because of how infrequently the characters move on the early nights. Which means there is a very probable chance that you will not see the main fucking character of the game throughout the entire game. What the fuck kind of logic is that? And that's really it. Something I didn't mention about Bane, by the way, is that during this night, it is borderline impossible for him to make it to your door, so you never have to worry about him either. We love video game balancing over here on the Dexter White channel. Night 4's phone call actually has some substance to it. Apparently, the boss is still missing and nobody knows where he is, which now apparently means we won't even get paid for the week we've been doing. Phone guy mentions possibly having corporate find another boss, a better one that would give us the raise we wanted. Phone guy mentions he was snooping around in the back room and found an unlocked phone in a drawer that was apparently the boss's. He says he wasn't able to look through it for long because another employee found him snooping around. The only thing he could see was that the phone had something about an old factory or pizzeria on it. Who really cares about any of that though? Are you ready for the most fun you've ever had playing a FNAF game in your entire life? Well, let me introduce you to Night 4, where you'll probably have an animatronic at your door a total of 3 fucking times. Maybe 4 if you're lucky. By the way, I know I'm going to get comments about this, but yes, I am aware about the hard mode version of this game, which, as the name suggests, makes the game harder. However, even in the more difficult version of this game, Night 4 is when it really starts to get difficult, except for one super funny problem. There's a bug in the code that prevents both Rachel and Ray from ever attacking unless the power goes out, which means the cameras are literally useless because Ray will never run to your office, so you can just hide under the desk the entire game and occasionally pull the curtains closed. The only other threat in this night is Pete and Bane, but they both attack the right door. Something funny though is that they can't appear in your right doorway if you're looking at it. So you don't even mean to hide under the desk. You can just look at the fucking doorway and they won't come. Granted, if they do get to your door while you're closing the curtains, you only have about 5 seconds to react and close the door or hide under the desk, but still, holy shit, how the hell is hard mode so goddamn easy? Night 5's phone call has some honestly pretty interesting reveals. It's clear that the message we're hearing was meant to be sent to the boss, who we find out's name is Phil, clearly establishing that the phone guy still has contact with him despite his disappearance. However, it's also clear that the phone guy doesn't know where Phil went. Phone guy mentions doing something else to sabotage the business down the street, referring to Freddy's. He says they've already had one incident, so making another one happen is sure to work, which would lead one to believe that they're suggesting they caused whatever the original incident that happened there was, or that they're just wanting to cause another one. When the idea was shot down for bringing a bad rap to animatronics in general, Phone Guy says that he really messed up this time, which would lead me to believe that he had already chosen to do something. It's at this moment that the Phone Guy mentions that they've got us, the character we play as, quote, tied up in our strings. So that's awesome. Thanks, Guy. I thought we had something special together, but clearly I was just a piece of eye candy for you to oogle at all day. I thought you loved me. Anyways, the phone guy asks Phil if he's actually going to give us that promotion we apparently were promised. And he says he'd be willing to make up a lie to tell us to make sure that promotion never happens. And in all honesty, the moment I heard that shit, I would have walked right out of that goddamn building. My feelings are crushed, Guy. I'm a person too, you know. Night 5 still has the problem of both Rachel and Ray not being able to attack you. The bug carrying over to the non-hard mode version of this game as well now, so that's awesome. Even easier. Perfect. Nothing of interest to talk about here except for what happens after you complete the night. After finishing off Night 5, we get a cutscene inside of what I could only assume to be our bedroom, which for some reason has Rachel's posters on the wall. A little weird, bro, but you do you. We hear a knock at our door, and on the other side we get fucking reamed by the thing, only to wake up inside of the office once again. Apparently just being a bad dream, maybe. Or who knows? Maybe even a premonition of what's to come. Ooh, spooky. But that's really all those Nights at Rachel's has to offer. A boring, monotonous gameplay loop that's enough to make me want to rather play with my own skin flute with a cheese grater. It, for some reason, helped shape the fan game scene to what it is today. Does the game look great? Yes. Are the designs good? Of course they are. But can I in all honesty say that the game itself is good? No. No, I cannot. But what about the second game? Oh boy, is that a whole nother bag of worms to dive into? Fuck it, this video has been short so far, so let's soothe our minds and talk about Those Nights at Rachel's 2 Reloaded. To start, no, this game, technically speaking, is not official. Oh, wait. Oh, shit. It's actually been endorsed by Nixon? So, okay, fuck, I guess it is canon. This game was not made by Nixon and was posted on April 1st of 2017, originally designed to be just that, an April Fool's joke. But due to Nixon not wanting to officially continue the series, he decided to jokingly make it canonical to the official lore. Just looking at the title screen of Rachel's 2 would lead you to believe it would be a normal FNAF experience, but in fact, it's not a FNAF experience at all. Pressing play, we load into an office where we can actually walk around. But before you can really get a good feel for your surroundings, we pull out the blicky and shoot the fuck out of one of the robots. What the fuck? What the fuck is this? That's right. Rachel's 2 is a horde-based survival shooter game. With waves of enemies approaching your office, you'll have to pop caps in each and every one of their asses. Each character having its own mechanic, with Doug being your everyday basic zombie, Rachel taking 2 shots to kill, Ray being tiny and running at light speed, and the fucking bull taking about 800 bullets to kill. And of course, there are more characters that I never experienced in my playthrough because this game can honestly get pretty damn hard. Would I recommend you play the second game? No, probably not. But if you want a good laugh and just want to have some retarded fun, then I think Those Nights at Rachel's 2 is definitely something you should give a try. Overall, it's very clear Those Nights at Rachel's has forever left an impact on the FNAF genre. And even though I think, generally speaking, it's pretty bad, I can't deny that it is a classic and a fan favorite, and has greatly helped in growing the very community I care so much about today. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Or is Those Nights at Rachel's actually the best FNAF game ever designed by anyone ever? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. In my 5 Nights at Frederick's video, I asked you guys what the first FNAF Max mode you completed was. My favorite answer is this one by Wonderland VR. They said Ultimate Custom Night, and fucking excuse me? Your first ever Max mode was the hardest official Click Team Max mode that exists? That's nuts, can't even lie. The question of this video is, what is your biggest 5 Nights at Freddy's hot take and why? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channels, buy some merch, I'd appreciate it a lot. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!